Before I call the meeting to order, I'd like to just acknowledge the fact that Peter Levitt, longtime moderator for the Town of Scituate Town Meeting, passed away last January. But like all things COVID, everything gets mixed up and everything got postponed. So for the board especially, I'd like to let you know that a memorial service will be held on Friday, October 15th at 10 a.m. The service will be at the First Trinitarian Church, and his children, Beth Monaco, Jackie, Randy, Brady, and Doug, invite you to a reception after the ceremony in Rice Hall. Peter was not just moderator for 19 years, he was also a member of the Historical Commission and the Community Preservation Committee. He was a member of the Scituate Historical Society and the Friends of South Shore Fisheries. He was also a teacher and well-loved person. If you read his obituary, he was clearly a great guy, and, you know, just want to let the children know that the town appreciates everything he did for us. And so, with that said, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda? Moved by Ms. Curran.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Vignani. All in favor? Aye.
Can I just add something about Peter?
Of course.
So Peter put me on the advisory committee probably 20 years ago, more than that, 21 years ago. And he was a great moderator. He brought no attention to himself. He ran the meetings well. He was respected, and really kept the meeting on track and let people say what they had to say, but yet kept it in touch. And I always respected the way that he ran the meetings and the way that he interacted with everybody. So I know it was over a year ago. Oh no,
Almost a year.
Almost a year ago. He was a great asset to this town, and I was really sad to hear the sad news about him. But condolences still to his family, and it'll be a great event.
Not easy being the moderator of a town meeting, right?
No.
Kathy Gardner knows what it's like. Now we're here to discuss vote acceptance of a donation of 11,000. Oh, walk-ins. I'm sorry. Are there any walk-ins? Plenty of people, but no walk-ins. Okay. Discuss vote acceptance of a donation of $11,405 to the Council on Aging. Linda Hayes here is the director, and I see she has company with her.
My pleasure. Happy reason, for the most part. But to introduce Barbara Alger, who is the sister of Joanne Papandrea, who also did pass away a year and a half ago in May of 2020. She's also here representing her brother Rich as well, and their donation to the Senior Center from the proceeds of a amazing showing and art sale that we had at the Senior Center for 3 days in August. So I can introduce Barb if she would like to say something.
Would you like to say a few words? I know your sister was an incredibly talented artist.
She was.
If you lived in Scituate and you didn't see her artwork somewhere, you weren't looking.
Yeah. Well, my brother Rich and I are very pleased that we were able to make this donation to the Senior Center, honoring Joanne, because the center was a very important part of her life. And she taught art classes there for 20 years, and she was a Scituate resident for 52 years, and very active in the community. And Rich and I are very appreciative that we were given the opportunity to hold this exhibit at the brand new center, which is just beautiful.
Well, and I understand that the paintings and artwork was sold to those who wanted to purchase it.
Oh, the tribute.
Yes.
And I'm sure it was very
Many
successful.
visitors.
Yes, beyond our expectations.
Family, friends, students, people that didn't know her necessarily but knew of her work. It was amazing.
And we're so grateful for all the help we had, many very helpful and wonderful people, especially Linda. It was just a joy working with her, and she was just so helpful and supportive throughout the whole exhibit leading up to it, and we're just so appreciative. Thank you, Linda.
Well, we're looking forward to, of course, using the money to extend Joanne's memory, and in many different ways, supporting funding some of the arts, obviously, and a particular program that we need funding for that everyone loves, Art for the Mind, that we have monthly, but some other art programs, and then hopefully some meditative settings and environments throughout the center that could honor her. So
So
she
a
would have
living
loved,
legacy.
she would have loved the new
Absolutely.
center. I mean, she was so looking forward to it being built, and so her memory will be
Absolutely.
honored
It
there.
will.
and
Absolutely.
We're very
Continually.
pleased.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the board?
Sure, I just want to say I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But what a wonderful way to memorialize your sister. And Linda, just a question, we do have sort of an art room, don't we, where we
We have
consistently have
the
art
hallway.
classes, or is there a way in which?
Oh, there is an art room, yes, and we have her portrait there, which will also
Oh,
have
good.
an engraved
Okay, that was my
engraving.
question, whether or not she would also be
Yes.
memorialized
Yes.
there as well. Great, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just want to say thank you for sharing the gift of the, I mean, it's not just art, I mean, it's
Yeah.
fantastic art,
It is.
artwork. It's unbelievable. And it's just such a great ability for us to, so thank you for sharing her gift with us.
You're welcome.
Well, her artwork actually had always elevated our previous, digs at 27 Brook Street, but now even better, because we do still have some permanent art from Joanne at the center, as well as at home, so it's wonderful.
It's wonderful. Tony?
Yeah, just sorry for your loss, and
Thank you.
and thank you so much for such a generous gift. I'm glad it's going to a place that she appreciated so much.
Ms. Canfield?
Just very quickly, I mean, I can't think of a more appropriate way to launch the new center than to combine her contributions and then even beyond that with this donation. It was the perfect way to open and honor those who had been so instrumental. And I just can't think of anybody that went through any of the senior center for the last few decades that wasn't touched by her gifts of teaching as well as her artwork. So thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for this donation. Thank you. Would you like a motion?
Please.
Move to accept the generous donation of the family of Joanne Vignani, hopefully I said that right,
Right.
Papandre, Barbara Alger, and Richard did I say it? Vignani?
Vignani?
To
we're
honor
very close.
memorial Joanne's memory, to support further programming in the arts at the senior center, and to create an environment that contributes to the wellness of all who visit.
Second?
Second by Mr. Vignani. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 with great appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now to the more practical things. We have Kathy Gardner here to talk about the re-precincting. I think that's the term.
Big goings on.
We're going through the
Decennial?
decennial, the
Yes.
10-year, we do the census.
Yes, so I.
This is a
yes.
result of the census being done.
Correct. This happens every 10 years on the decade, and I just wanted to give you a brief review before I give you the final map, which I'll be back on the 19th for your approval. Here's what happens. So every 10 years on the decade, the U.S. Census is sent to all households across the United States. Re-precincting was done in 2011 after the completion of the 2010 census, federal census. Though Scituate will not be adding a precinct, the precinct boundary lines will change based on information that was provided back beginning in 2017 up until the census went out. That included population, new housing units, potential housing units, and those now under construction. So I've gone back and forth with the draft map. A couple of they were pulling too much out of 4 down by the railroad tracks, the new, and they were giving it to precinct 2. They weren't taking into consideration, there was a lot of marshland in the river and Herring Brook. So we went back and forth. So in late September, they sent me the final draft of the precinct boundaries, the blocks, which are squares within each precinct, and the block population numbers. And there's other necessary materials that I had to proofread and review. Now, I've sent you the map with the precinct boundary lines, which are the dark black lines, and you can see the colors reflect the old precincts. Minimal changes. So again, I asked the state, our numbers are not, you should have got a PDF I sent to Lorraine. Let me see, I have that.
Yeah, I didn't see a map.
Looks like this.
Yeah, I didn't see a map, I just had all the writing, so that's why I was.
So you'll get a
If anybody
final
else
map.
had.
You will get a final anyhow. This shows the before and after. So tonight, I just wanted to know if you had any questions. They gave me 2 options for help on this. I chose option A, technical assistance from the Secretary of Commonwealth's office. I'm not an engineer. I know our resources are tight and we're all busy. Option B was that the municipality would solely be responsible for creating a legal and technical compliant map, so no. So the state has done it, I've worked with them, and it needs your approval. And so I just want to know if you have any questions on it. I have to have this voted on and submitted by October 31st. The final map and precinct lines are effective December 31st. And you ask why. I ask why. Our numbers are so close in differentials between precincts. I said, why are we bothering with this? I don't see the need, because we have less than 4,000 people in each precinct. You can't go over that. We're like 32 at the most. And then there's like 100 people, 125 differential between each precinct. And they said, oh, because we have to do it every 10 years. That was their answer.
It's the law, I'm sure.
I'm like, really? So anyhow, what happens after December 31st with these numbers is it goes to the state for possibly changing the congressional districts, which is huge. But that doesn't have anything to do with this. We're just doing the local re-precincting. Every voter will have to be notified in writing that their precinct has changed. So I've asked the state to help get me those addresses of precincts that'll change. So I just wanted to know if you had any questions before I send you the final map for the 19th.
Kathy, can we just see that?
Yes, absolutely. I thought you had it, so I apologize.
You can start down there, we'll take a,
What's the largest delta of movement?
The largest precinct we have right now by about 120 people is precinct 1. See, this is small on maps. I wish you had your PDF. So the red one here is precinct 1. The green one is precinct 3. And if you look at precinct 4 with Humrock, the brown, okay? So they were taking a lot of, little movement. So if you see here, see the red one on precinct 1? It went from, this is the new boundary, so now this is going to be over here.
That was 4.
So you can see the changes. They're not that
The
major.
2 goes into 4.
So, Kathy, other than
It's the black.
practical matter that someone's going to have to vote in a different precinct, possibly, what other implications are there? Is this anything to do with us having one representative at the State House versus 2?
So, no, the representative for precinct 3 stays the same, and if you notice, thank goodness, there's no precinct changes for 3. That's the only precinct that isn't changing its boundary. And I also I'm going to be sending you the legal description of each boundary, bound by First Parish Road, westerly on this. I just proofed that today, and the boundaries match what the final map is, because I wanted to double check it. So I'm on the same page with the state. So it doesn't have any ramifications for the representatives, but it may eventually, if they take all the numbers from this area, Scituate, Cohasset, Norwell, the congressional district might change.
All right. But essentially, at this point,
It's just
from a
apples and
practical
oranges.
standpoint, it's just going to matter which line you get in at the...
It's the boundaries, yep.
I just looking.
Yep.
Madam Chair?
2 gets chopped up.
Oh, I was in 2, now I'm in 5. I'm going to be so confused when I go to vote.
Couple
Where
of
am I?
Quick questions. So that's, the first question is, what's the process for informing residents?
Be by mail.
So
There'll
they'll
also
get
be
it.
something on the website for everybody. I'll probably post a new precincting map on the web, well, I will post it on the, so you can see your new streets, where your street is and where
Or
your
mail
precinct
something
is.
to every house?
Yeah, they have to be notified by mail.
Okay. And am I seeing this correctly, that precinct 2 is
To 5,
Really just,
it pushes into 6 a little?
it could, yeah, I don't, well, do I have one in
It
front
looks
of me?
like, almost like Oceanside, half of Oceanside now is on 2.
Part of it, yes. And then they have, I think I gave you, oh, here's one. This is the final one. Oh, it's so small.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's time. I wish I had we should have done a PowerPoint.
Well, we'll have
4
2.
has pushed over into 2 a little bit, and then precinct
That's all right.
2 has pushed into 1, and then very little changes in 5, 6, and definitely no changes in 3.
Okay.
Very little changes in 5 and 6, down by the ocean.
But we don't have representative town government. So,
No, I thought you meant state reps.
no, I'm talking about town. We don't have representative town government. So we don't need to fight with each other over who's running in which precinct, or who
Correct.
gets whose
Correct.
streets, and who
Correct.
loses streets, and who's got to move.
Thank
and,
goodness, yes.
There will be no gerrymandering.
No. So,
Okay, and we'll vote in 2 weeks, but the
Yep.
state is going to have their lists, their precincts for the state and federal soon.
Yeah, they'll have to have, we'll submit this by the end of October with your approval. I'll send the certificate that I have to send in to them, along with the new map, the language, the block numbers, and the population information. And I'll be back here on the 19th for that. And I'll send it right off to the state, and then they'll give me the list of the address and precinct changes. And then we go from there as who's gonna help me get these addresses. I drove around 10 years ago with Bernice, and we went to Ronnie Schoen's and took a left, and I looked on the right side of the street and I said, what's that house number down to Branch Street? All those numbers have to get notified. It was insane. I said, I can't do that again. So I asked them to help us with that, with GIS and stuff, so.
good. Oh, good.
Okay?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Use technology.
Welcome.
Any other questions from the
Technology's the
board?
way to go, definitely.
No, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks very much for your time. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Kathy.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Burbine.
Member of the Coast Guard here that's not on the agenda, and maybe he should have been a walk-in.
No.
He's listed
No.
Devereaux, he's gonna be interviewing.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't.
I couldn't have missed him.
Look, Burkett doesn't go till at the end of it. Is he just here for that?
Yeah. Some people had to be done first, so. All right, we will move this along. We have 2 applicants for the Veteran Service Advisory Council. The gentleman in the uniform is, I believe, what's your rank, sir?
So, Captain.
Captain.
Yes.
Captain Devereaux is here. Would you like to come up and talk to us a little bit?
So please call me Mark.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Should I stand, sit? What?
No, you can sit,
Okay.
please.
So this is my first town meeting, so very exciting. I'm not coming to, although I can certainly not
better.
address why Station Scituate is open, is staying open. That wasn't part of my discussion, but as of 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, we were told that it's going to be officially stay open. So that's great news.
Well, I have to say, on behalf of our town administrator, he led the charge on this. He was extraordinary in getting every town around us to rally. Not only that, but he turned out the most media that I've seen in a really long time at an event. And so I think without him picking up on the fact that it was going to happen, because it appeared in the Federal Register in little teeny tiny type. And once he found that, he was on it. And he really did marshal a lot of people to get that done.
No, he
So,
did. He did an extraordinary job.
Yeah.
So it's
He's
great
very
news.
passionate about it, so he's a wonderful representative for our community, and I want to thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
So, tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Mark Devereaux. Tony.
Mark Allen.
We moved here in 2007, so I live behind Oro's on Judge Cushing Road, and I have 3 boys in the high school, twins that are sophomores, and 1 that's a freshman. So that's pretty exciting. They're all obviously competing for hockey, JV, certainly lacrosse, and also baseball. Been part of the community a very long time. I've been a volunteer coach in the South Shore Seahawks program, to baseball, to lacrosse as well. So actively in the community. Just last year, I had my team volunteer for Ship Shape Day. So we did the Beautification Committee as well. So I think we collected roughly 30 to 40 bags of trash, which was pretty exciting. So it motivated them not to throw trash out, right, when they become seniors. But what I would say is being part of this opportunity to give back, our veterans deserve our very best. Education, everything from medical care, health care, housing, to obviously burial rights at the end as well. So I think the full gamut from them serving our country, they deserve our very best. And I think I'm uniquely qualified to come here and represent the town, to serve and provide and volunteer my time to give back to the community and help those veterans that some aren't actively willing to come forward and ask for help. I've done the run to home base for now 8 years. I've raised over $10,000 for PSTD. So there's different components that I truly understand. PSTD, as well as the active veteran who doesn't understand how he can obtain services and help them do the VA applications. So education, housing, everything from medical to dental. So I think that's critically important. So being a conduit, being a catalyst to help that person, advance their lives in certainly a very respectable way. And so that's why I'm here tonight.
Well, thank you for coming in. Board have any questions? Ms. Canfield?
Just want to thank you so much for coming forward. I believe I was at the meeting when you came to traffic rules and regs, and I have to say, he was one of the most prepared and had done his homework, had a real action plan to how we could address the concerns he brought to the committee, which is wonderful. So if you bring that kind of attention to detail to this, plus with your background, I think you'd be a great addition.
Thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, couldn't get a better person. Literally, great family man, very active, high energy, attention to details, all the things we're looking for in this committee, and I think you'll do a spectacular job. So thank you for getting involved.
Ms. Curran?
Nope, not much. You have a great resume. All of your work experience as well is phenomenal. So you're quite impressive, Captain. So I think you'd be a terrific asset to the committee, and especially with your focus on PTSD, I think that would be a great asset to add to them so they can provide some good services to our veterans as well. So thank you, because you certainly have a lot on your plate, I can see from your work, and thank you for volunteering. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Andrew?
Echo it's tough to follow that, but it is true. I mean, again, thank you for stepping forward. It is so important for us to have folks like you and to spend your time. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Well,
it.
if I can
Appreciate
say
the
that
opportunity.
it was kind of a dormant committee for a little while, but over the past few years, they've gotten very active. So I think it's great to have someone like you to join them, because they've really done wonderful things over the past few years especially. So thank you for coming in.
Right.
So what are the next steps?
So there's 2 openings, is that correct?
Yes, 2 openings, yes, or 2 candidates.
And 2 candidates.
And 2 candidates. And we have Joe Kelly, who's the chair here this evening.
Okay. Mr. Kelly, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you for recognizing the last 2 years. We certainly have had some good things happen for Scituate veterans. We're looking forward to Veterans Day. Got a full day planned at the Scituate Senior Center. And then we have a breakfast. We're going to do another breakfast this year in December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. So we're looking forward to that. And Mark?
Yes.
We have a meeting on the 13th. Next Wednesday, so that's next. 9 o'clock in the morning at the Senior
Jump right
Center.
in.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We'll vote later.
He may not approve them.
Mr. Kelly's not taking no for an answer on this one.
In order to respond to Mr. Devereaux's question about next steps, the board will vote later this evening. We'll notify you in writing tomorrow.
Okay, fantastic.
You don't
Before the
have to-
13th though, right? Yeah. I've already been.
And then when they appoint you, which I'm sure they will,
Okay.
you'll have to come in and get sworn in with the town clerk, but we'll explain on that.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay?
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
So next we have Christopher Lazard.
Thank you so much. You too, Mark.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you? So you're interested in the Veterans Advisory Council as well?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Could you tell us your name, address, and a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'm Christopher Lassard. I live at 82 Greenfield Lane. I am an 8-year veteran of the Marine Corps. I did 8 years active duty. One of those was a tour in Iraq in 2004. I was going to buy property there, but the real estate went down, so I kind of decided to move to Scituate instead. So.
Good idea.
But all kidding
With a
aside,
sense of humor.
all kidding aside, I primarily lived in Newton for the last 13 years. I moved down here in 2019, so I've been over here just over 2 years. I was going through some family stuff. We moved down here. My wife was going through cancer. Unfortunately, passed away last year, so we wanted to come down to the water, and we've always been a big fan of Scituate, Marshfield area, and we chose Scituate, and we're very glad we did. So what I used to do in previous years was I was always involved in my community. When we came down here, my wife was taking a turn for the worse, then COVID hit, so my ability to get involved in the community is obviously what wasn't able to happen. So I'm also a full-time firefighter in the city of Newton, and I also serve as the program director for the Massachusetts Fallen Heroes, which is a nonprofit, grassroots nonprofit we started in 2010 to build the nation's first memorial for a state that's fallen. So we were able to accomplish that, and we dedicated it in 2016. It's in Seaport. Everyone told us it would take 20 years. It took us about 6. So we're very, very proud of that. If you're ever in Seaport, please go by and see that memorial. It is something else. A lot of people have gone to visit that, and it does a lot for the families. Within that role of program director at Mass Fallen Heroes, which is what you would call technically a side gig, which actually I have 2 full-time jobs between the firefighting and the Mass Fallen Heroes, is we do an array of things for veterans and Gold Star families. That's also how I met Joe Kelly, who I've known for a very long time now, along with his entire family. And unfortunately, 300-plus other Gold Star families that the state has. Within that programming, I do a lot of different things. Some of the stuff similar to what the good captain said who left.
I think he had a soccer game to go to.
Probably. Sounds like he had a lot going on with the kids. So I have one daughter myself. She's here at Gates in 8th grade. She's actually going to be joining me in a second, coming from the soccer clinic over at the field. So I told her wait in the hall. We'll see what happens. But I've done a lot of service providing for veterans and Gold Star families, not to the extent of disability stuff. I believe that's what the VSOs are, one of their best assets is. I love the fact that Scituate even has a Veterans Advisory Council. Most cities and towns don't. From all the cities and towns I visited in the state, they usually have your typical VSO that has about 6 other jobs. Liquor license guy, zoning, they usually multitask with a lot of different things. I love that this town incorporates a committee to work hand in hand with the VSO. So I look forward to working with Dawn and bringing whatever experience I have, and also learning more. I think education is lifelong. I don't think you can come into something and say, oh, I already know how to do that. I'd love to learn more about what Scituate does. I've been very impressed thus far with the amount of support that Scituate gives its veterans. I love it's a Purple Heart community. I know Mr. Kelly had a lot to do with that. And I was able to meet some of the other members of the board when I attended informally a meeting a few months ago, and it just seems like a great group and something I'm very interested in doing, and also giving back to my community.
Well, thank you for coming in, especially under the family circumstances.
Oh,
Sorry.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
He's a great neighbor, he's my neighbor. He's a great guy.
Thank you.
Oh, this is like a fan club here tonight.
Yeah.
We like this. Mr. Goodrich, question?
I have no questions. We have so many amazing
There's so
people.
many.
I feel so lucky as the town to have such talented folks like yourself to step forward. So really, I
Thank you.
appreciate.
I'm just like everyone else, but I appreciate the compliment, sir.
No, I agree, it's humbling, just to listen to your experience and your dedication. So and you'd be a terrific asset, no questions asked, but I am sorry for your loss.
Oh, well, thank you.
But we're happy that you're here in Scituate, because I think you'll be able to add an incredible amount of value.
I hope to do that, ma'am.
Thank you for coming forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Tony?
Yeah, not much to add. Love your energy, love your experience, love the fact that you've done this in other communities. You've got a great reference over there as a neighbor. You're already engaged in the committee, right? You've gone, you've met people. We really can't ask for anything more than that. And the committee's doing spectacular. I'm the liaison, and I just stay out of the way. And Mr. Kelly and Kim Stewart and the rest of them have really taken the program, and launched it. So we're just looking for more people to help do all the rest of the things they want to do. So thank you for volunteering.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Canfield, you're on cleanup.
Ditto. Yeah, I tell you exactly what I was going to say, is this committee has really just gone on fire in the last couple of years under the leadership of the team that's there now, and I can only see you as making it even take it that much higher, so.
Well, thank you. On the application, I just put combat veteran. I did not attach a resume. I did not want to bore any of you, but I do have one available. If you guys would like to see a resume for something official, I can make sure that you all have one.
I'm all set.
I think we're good.
I figured you guys had enough going on. Just here's a resume, so.
So, Mr. Kelly, want to reel him in?
Oh, I already do.
I think you recruited him.
You can officially do it now.
Yeah, a great guy for the council, and great guy for Scituate, I tell you.
Yep.
There are a lot of resources.
Joe said, go get your neighbor, sign him up.
Well, if I can say that Scituate with volunteers is like, what's Garrison Keeler's town, where all the children are above average. We have all these volunteers who are above average, so thank you so much.
My pleasure, and thank you for the compliment, all of you. I appreciate it, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
So, public hearing. Discuss vote liquor license violation. Jed Caratondorf. O'Brien is.
Sergeant O'Brien's here.
In civvies, right?
Cities. All dressed up.
Would you like to come up? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Apologize for missing the last meeting I had.
Oh, that's all right. Chief
Child
Thompson,
sick.
did you well? So, would you just like to give us a brief description of what happened?
Sure. Sergeant O'Brien, Scituate Police Department. In addition to my role as a patrol sergeant, I'm also the alcohol compliance officer for the town of Scituate. On Friday, August 20th of this year, I conducted an underage alcohol compliance check. Prior to the check, I contacted Ruth Thompson of the Scituate Mariner and informed her of the upcoming compliance check. Prior to that date, she put out a publication notifying people that the compliance check was going to happen. In this compliance check, I used a 20-year-old underage male. His appearance was not altered at all. The underage male did not carry any identification on him, and the only money he was given was, only money he had on him was the $20 I had given him for the compliance check. At approximately 12:30 p.m., he entered the Rivershed restaurant at 17 New Driftway. I remained in the car. I observed the underage male enter the restaurant. Approximately 10 minutes later, I observed the underage male exit the restaurant. The underage male entered the vehicle and informed me that he had asked for and was given a bottle of Bud Light beer. He explained to me that he walked into the restaurant and approached the bar. The bartender asked him what he would like, and he asked for a bottle of Bud Light. The underage male was not asked for any identification. Once the beer was placed in front of the underage male, per my instructions, he walked out of the restaurant and left the beer on the bar. The underage male did not consume any of the beer at all. The underage male gave me a physical description of the bartender with all the information. I entered the restaurant, identified myself to a manager by the name of Kevin Riggs. I explained to Kevin what had transpired, and I identified the bartender in question. The manager was extremely cooperative towards me.
All right. Would you like to tell us?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and say it didn't happen. It happened, and I've had a liquor license for 10 years. I've never had this happen. This is a brand new thing. I don't want to make it sound like I'm making excuses for my staff or anything, but I think I would like to tell our side of the story. We were kind of in a perfect storm of things where we were having a bereavement gathering for one of our cooks, family members, and it was early in the day, and it was just, and again, not making excuses, it was assumed that this individual was part of the family gathering. And I think just the way that, I mean, I've talked to my staff about this. Is a very important thing for me because this falls on me. This is Elaine. She's my manager, kind of director of operations for 3 of the restaurants. And, we sat down with our bartender and we spoke with her. And the bartender that this happened with is a very experienced bartender and someone that I have a lot of confidence in. And I think it was kind of like a perfect storm of just like COVID, like we haven't had large gatherings, and it was just sort of like nobody else was in the restaurant other than this bereavement. And I think she just assumed that it was part of it. And, did she make the right decision? Absolutely not. But that's kind of where things transpired. So.
I'd just like to add, hi. We literally don't hire anybody unless they have a tip certification in hand. It's kind of like part of our go-to. It's in our interview process is, do you have a tip certification? Nobody is hired unless they have one. We don't take anybody on board unless we have a copy of a current tip certification. This particular bartender is tip certified. So unfortunately, she did, again, it was like the perfect storm of situations for an underage person to come in and try their chance at getting a beer. She had assumed that everybody in the restaurant at that time was part of the bereavement, which was a member of staff, which is one of our chefs at the Rivershed. So she kind of put everything together in a 10, 20 second moment and was like, he's got to be part of the party, I'm going to serve him a beer, and obviously it wasn't the right decision, it was completely the wrong decision. but, you know, she made a judgment call and it was the wrong one. Unfortunately, I would also like to say this past summer, we've probably collectively on a monthly period had anywhere between 75 to 100 false identifications taken in by our staff and caught by our staff. It's something that they always do, and it's something that that's my thing. When people say, what's your thing? That's my thing. It's like,
Stickler on
are they
that, yeah.
carded? Are they tip certified? Like, I want to see paperwork. So unfortunately, again, I do think that bartender is very qualified bartender, has made great judgment calls in the past. Unfortunately, this was one that just managed to slip under the radar. And that's obviously our bad, so for that we apologize.
And we've spoken to her and we've talked about protocol and we've put in new protocol, even more like stringent protocol. And, you know, I guess that's all we can say. It happened. It's not a denying experience, just, you know, not proud of it. Like, I've tried to do everything right. I've known a lot of you guys for a long time. I think you know that. So.
More questions?
Thanks for coming in, Tara, and yep, we do take this really seriously. You know, as we mentioned, I don't know if you watched the hearings last week, but, you know, we were pretty serious about even the first violation. So even though you haven't had any, we still take it seriously. We've been fortunate as a town not to have a lot of accidents with underage drinking, and I think a lot of that is a testimony to the strict standards that we put in place as a community, as well as many of our establishments follow. So I do appreciate that you've identified over 7,500 illegal IDs, if you will, false IDs. You're utilizing software, I would imagine, at your bar to identify those?
Well, primarily we have a lot of staff who've been with us since day one, who came aboard at 14, all the way up to the age of 21, 22, 23, and they're very familiar with the town of Scituate and their fellow people they went to school with, so they primarily will already recognize them before they even sit down at a seat. The policy is you have to card everybody if they look underage, and that's just how we operate. So
Under 40. It's
yeah.
kind of our protocol.
Under what? 40?
Under 40.
Yeah, so they're pretty diligent about it.
Okay. Just for you, Tara, you had mentioned that
Tara. That's okay.
That you've put in new protocols. What are they?
I mean, there's no making decisions about where you think the day is going. Like the bereavement, no bereavement, like everyone gets ID'd. It's just, it's not like that's the policy now. And I've done it across the board at all 3 of my restaurants because I also take this very, very seriously. Like this isn't, like, this is other people's lives, it's our livelihood, it's the staff's livelihood, like, it's not something to take lightly, so. And I understand and I actually appreciate that you guys are stringent about that because, you know, we all have children and it's like, you don't ever want to see that happen, so.
Thank you.
Andrew?
I'm curious, I don't know, maybe you don't want to divulge this, but I was trying to figure out, what does losing a day financially, let's say it was a Friday, what's the hit, a range?
I just went through COVID, so yeah, it's tough.
Is it
But-
like 1,000, is it 10,000?
I don't want to talk about like numbers. I think it's just, it's hard. It's hard. I've, you know, as we all know, and I'm not like, we're not here to talk about like COVID and what we've been through, but like, you know, it's like there's staffing issues and stuff like that. I've had to close for a lot of days. I had a chef that didn't have, the bereavement chef that we have talked about hasn't had a vacation in 6 years and he took a honeymoon, so I had to close for like 10 days because he was gone for 3 weeks and I had to close for Monday, Tuesday, and you know, it is what it is. But again, like you're gonna determine the outcome here, and I will, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to, because part of this too, and I do take it seriously. My issue is, what's the ultimate goal here? Which places around town are we concerned about that we know might be a problem? I don't know if there's been a run of places that the police have been to their place. Oh, this is a problem area. if someone is tip certified, they're catching fake IDs, and there's, like, what else?
Well, if I can interject real quick, I will tell you right now, my business philosophy is I never want to be people's last stop, because I'm responsible. Like I said, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner. I don't want to be people's last stop, which is why I close the bar early. I don't need to have people drinking Bud Lights until 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to be that person. If anything, I want people to have an amazing meal. They want to grab another drink, they go home, and we close things down by like 10, 11 o'clock. That's just my philosophy in life, and that, if that, adds to any of my responsibility, then she'll attest for that, like, we close earlier than a lot of
Yeah.
places.
Since coming out of COVID, I mean, obviously it's been crazy, and I can't even believe I made it through COVID, and here we are, but it was insane. So we literally reevaluated everything. Obviously, we keep our standards as our standards. Everyone has to be tip certified. You've got to be educated. You've got to know what you're doing. We do a lot of training, whether it be in alcohol, food, just how we operate. There's a lot of, we don't just bring people in and they're on the floor. You go through a pretty strict training process with one of our trainers, and it's a 5-day process. Then you do a test, and you pass the test to be able to serve the public. Like, we don't just take it as you come in and you hand off beers, or you come in and you take an order for a cheeseburger and a beer. Like, you have to assess the situation, know who you're talking to. I mean, there's situations on a daily basis where we have somebody who's either celebrating out of COVID or celebrating out of chemo, or there's constantly situations where people are celebrating, or situations where people are coming medicated, and you have to make a split decision in the moment. So we're always trying to educate our staff to be able to know those situations and go get a manager. We always have a manager on duty. Sometimes they'll work 12-hour days just because, again, with staffing, we have to have people in place when alcohol is being served, that there's somebody responsible there. And also the bar staff, I have to say, for the most part in the Rivershed in Scituate, has been there for a long time. We don't have a huge staff turnover. We were lucky through COVID that a lot of people stayed with us and hunkered down, and we made it through, and they made a lot of money. And but again, it's always with responsibility. Even with the takeout alcohol, I mean, that was a huge curveball thrown at all restaurants. Like, we were horrified by it, still are horrified by it. We don't advertise it. We don't want to hand out alcohol for people to go. It's
Huge
just
liability.
huge, and it's such a gray area. And how can you make a judgment call when somebody pulls up to pick up a takeout, and you're supposed to know how they are by looking at them through a car window?
Right.
So
If they're 5 deep and you give them a drink to take home and they got it from the Rivershed, well,
yeah, even though we won't give them a
That's
straw,
on
but there's so many things on a constant basis that you're always one of these, and that was that day. Unfortunately, it happened to be, somebody who went in who, was looking for us to make that mistake, and
we did.
we made it, so.
Tony?
Sure. So clearly, we take this seriously. You take this seriously. I ate at your restaurants. I see you there. You have well-run establishments, just like every place. What you're telling us is the same thing that everyone's told me for the last 15 years. Whenever there's a liquor violation, I can't believe it happened. This person is the event really doesn't matter to me, whether you're 20 at a bereavement or 20 at a party. You have to be carded and you can't be served. We do take this seriously. I will say, last meeting we had 2 groups in here as well. And in the past, we've penalized people pretty hard about it. But Andrew made some good points last time that stuck with me, that we really we're not looking to penalize you financially or penalize you, to call you out kind of socially or anything like that. What we want is, we just don't want underage kids served. And we want to see what every establishment is going to do to help make that better.
Yeah.
So I know you have the card system in there. I would hope that you would use it in every situation. I don't know if I was confused by your answer a second ago, whether you do or you don't. And just hear about what, other than telling the bartender, don't do this again, what can we do to help make it so that it doesn't happen? You don't want to serve underage people. We don't want to serve underage people. what's the next step for these establishments to make sure it doesn't happen? Because every time we do one of these things, somebody gets
Right.
caught. You've passed all the ones before,
Right.
but unfortunately, you have an establishment this establishment where younger people like to go. You probably wouldn't
Yeah.
have this problem at one of your other restaurants where it's an older clientele, but this one,
Yes
you
and
know,
no
has a
on that
little bit of
one, but
younger
I think it's, to answer your question, I think it's exactly what you guys did. I mean, that's, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
And,
So I guess what I'm looking for, and I think some of the board is like, what do you think we can do to help you? Right? So Andrew had a great idea last time. How can we proactively do these sting operations where maybe the police aren't involved, or they are involved, but it's not really trying to catch you, but it's trying to teach you?
Right.
And how you can find out what's going on in your establishment. I have kids, right? I have kids that have grown up in this town, they're now old enough to drink, and
Yeah.
they probably drank at the Rivershed when they were 19 or at other.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but
Hopefully
at
not.
other establishments. I'm sorry to say that. But we know kids, right? They're going to try, and we have to be able to catch them and stop them.
Right.
So how can we get good establishments, right? You, the Mill Wharf, Market, these are all great cornerstones of our town. What's the sort of program that we can put in place so that we can help you run your operation better? That's what I think. I think that's where you were trying to go last time.
Yeah, the stakes are so high
Right.
that if there's a question, and
Yeah.
is this bartender really doing great or not? I don't know. But if now it's going to be, I'd like to know, if there's some way to be
Right.
like, I really want to make sure that this testing, to me, that's it too. It's like, I don't want the big, no, I want to try to hide away.
Right.
I want to be a partner. At least I do. I don't know.
I think just off the gate, use it as a training moment and say that, this is a trainable, a teachable moment, that these things happen and they're gonna happen again, and, you're gonna lose your job. This is like a partnership, I'm hiring you and then Elaine's hiring you to trust, with representing us, and if you don't follow the protocols, it's kind of like you wear non-slip shoes in the kitchen, because if you know what I mean, it's like that sort of thing, it's just got to be a mandate. And if she's in there and sees someone not card someone, well, they're going to lose their job, and we just need to be a lot more stringent on that and use this as a teaching moment. I guess that's the best thing I can come up with, and I'm a very open-minded person, so if there's any other ideas,
Yeah, well, the thing is that the test can't only be once every 2 or 3 years. That's right, because when that happens, then we make the assumption that it's happening
Right.
more than
Of
just,
course.
so I think that's kind of the program that Andrew and I were talking about the other day. If we went and established some program where we were going to your establishments and saying, okay, hey, we're doing this, you pay attention too, right? It's not us trying to get you, it's us working with you to try and get
Right.
these rules to be followed. And I think that's where we were kind of going to try and figure out how we can establish that.
maybe we set up our own stings within our establishment, on a weekly basis, and we, and that's how we sort of do the quality control. We know enough people in town that, and that might be something that we implement as part of our protocol. I can say one thing, being in the restaurant business, especially with being in COVID, it's like you have to just roll with the punches, and you've got to adapt or die, right? So I think that might be something we can talk about.
Yeah.
I think actually might be really wise to do something like that.
Ms. Canfield?
Thank you for being here. I know it's not easy. I have a different take on this than my colleagues. Is I feel and you do your job very well. Your job is the manager. Your job is to protect that license so that your business doesn't get penalized.
Yeah.
And, obviously it's the first time you've been here, so you do a pretty good job with that.
Thank you.
Our job is to oversee that process. And when there's an infraction, as there has been, it's our job to make sure it is punitive. Because if it's not, and we can talk about what that means, but if it's not, then we're not reinforcing how important it is to the community. That's my take on it. I think our public safety officers, they know how to do this. They know how to, they know the boxes they have to check to make sure that they're complying with the law, that you're complying with the law, and that we can do our job if things go awry. So I think the systems are in place. I think we've learned a lot in this particular year, that, you know, maybe there are things that the public safety officers can do to make sure that we're comfortable that the managers are doing their job. And I think Kara has articulated extremely well what her responsibility is internally. I don't think it's up to us to tell her how to manage it. We want to ask those questions. We want to know that you are taking it seriously as well. If you listen back to the other conversations, that was a common thing. None of us want to harm a good, solid business in Scituate that, you know, especially coming off this last year.
Yeah.
But I personally think that, you know, it is our responsibility to, you know, to look at the situation and mete out the appropriate response. Not so much department. If you see the nuance in this particular situation. Economic development, partner all day long. But our job is to make sure that you guys are following your licenses appropriately. That's my take on it.
Well, I guess what I'd like to ask is, how does a 19-year-old look like they're over 40?
Like I said, I'm not here to make excuses. It happens, you know.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying, we've heard that before, too.
Yeah.
And
No,
I don't
absolutely not.
understand it. I mean, there's a real big difference between a 19-year-old and a 40-year-old.
There is.
Unless you're in costume, which they're not.
I mean, I get carded, I want to celebrate life, you know. I'm like,
Me too.
pumped.
They card us down at Roach Brothers. I don't care. One of the other questions we had for the Mill Wharf was the issue of software that would enable you to know if someone's ID, I believe that's how it works, the ID is valid.
I'll be honest with you, when I bought the Rivershed, when it was operating as the burger bar, they had that in place, and they had it in place because you get like a discount on your insurance, and that failed us a couple times, where it didn't take the ID, so.
It didn't take the ID, meaning it didn't find it?
No, it was definitely a fake ID, and it didn't register it. So it's just not been my philosophy. This particular case is not about serving somebody with a fake ID, it's about not carding someone.
Right. Right.
You know, we're very focused on like knowing what to look for in a fake ID, which is why she said we've confiscated 75 to 100 in the last year, which is a lot if you think about it.
And what do you do with them? Do you throw them away? Do you send them somewhere?
Yeah, no,
Do you destroy
primarily
them?
we just destroy them.
Yeah.
You keep
Get
them?
rid of them.
You don't
Yeah.
give
We
them back to
destroy
them?
them, yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't give
No,
it.
we're supposed to take them away,
Okay.
yeah.
But this is a different, this is not a fake
Right.
ID, this is,
Right.
this is a lack of, you know.
Yeah.
And I have heard that from a lot of the younger kids that do work at the Rivershed, it's the same thing to go along with that they've used their fake IDs at other restaurants, and they've gone through the system where it hasn't caught them, so. To me, that screams like, well, if we're gonna invest this money in the software, that really isn't gonna work, when we should literally just card people.
Right.
And then question the ID in question, and do our due diligence through that way. You know, it's old school, but it works. It's like when the computers break down, we handwrite everything, you know, same thing. It's like, just do the card somebody.
Right.
There's also like so much technology, I mean, obviously I'm not like in the fake ID world, but like, there's so much technology now that I just don't, like, that somebody's always one step
ahead.
One step ahead, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Scituate, there's updated software that's more or less flawless. Works perfectly. The name is kind of leaving me right now, but I'm actually going through my inspections of all establishments on premises and off premises now, just for alcohol license, common vic license, so on and so on. So I'm gonna be dropping off paper, information to people to get it. There are 2 establishments in town that have them. I won't name them right now, but you can't put a fake, I mean, they work.
well, I'm very open to that, if
Yeah.
that's coming from, you know,
That was going to be my comment, is that I think it's just old software that some of those establishments are probably using.
Yeah.
And not the most updated, but thank you for bringing that up.
Anybody else? All right. Do we want to discuss what action to take?
Well, I'd like to recommend that we be consistent in what we've already applied. It is a first time in the past 5 years, or within 5 years, whatever, the same. So I want it to be any more aggressive than the board was last week with the other 2 violations, just to be consistent. I will trust that, I welcome your openness to Sergeant O'Brien's suggestion to take a look at the new software. I do think it's an extra,
For sure. I agree with you.
form of protection for you.
First, you do have to determine
If there's a violation.
Violation occurred.
Yep. So I will make a motion that the board agree that a liquor violation did occur at Rivershed Establishment on August 20th, 2021.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vignani. Do we need a roll call vote on this?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. 5-0, motion carries. A violation occurred. Determination of penalty.
So to Maura's point, I agree that, consistency is important, and it's fair. As I'm sure you know, a first violation under our policy could be a suspension up to 6 days. That would be on weekends. We discussed this a lot at the last couple of hearings, that those are our recommendations, but it's the board's prerogative to decide if that's, we just wanted to make sure we had guidelines in place to work off of. And I would think that a 1-day midweek would be consistent with what we put there for the millwork, which was a very similar situation. No violations, prior violations, and as far as timing-wise, I would think that how much time do we need for notices? I've forgotten that piece. Like if we were to pick a Wednesday, we need a couple of weeks anyway. You need a couple of weeks.
I think if you do the same Wednesday, October 13th, if that's what we decide.
Is that enough time for notification?
Yeah, there's no time.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we had to file things with the ABC, and if you wanted to appeal it, there was time. And no,
Ms. Amara?
Oh, legal counsel.
They do have the right to appeal the decision and to appeal the penalty imposed. You can always, like you have found yourself in a situation, you can set it so that it would be at least 10 days, I think it's 10 days you have to appeal, after when that period would run. So you can do that, or you can set it at a different time, and if they appeal, push it back. I think it's probably easier and probably more fair to everybody to give the parties a little time to, get ready for this, because it's going to be a hit like it's been with all of the people working on the violation. So I think it's probably cleaner and easier to set it for a time after the 10-day appeal period would have run.
All right.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes,
to
of course.
Kara? What are your current hours of operations? I know they've changed a little bit, probably due to COVID. You open 7 days a week? What's your?
We are now.
Okay.
This week we opened back up 7 days. 11:30 to 9 midweek, and then 11:30 till 10 on the weekends, with brunch starting at 10 a.m. on Sundays.
Thank you.
So 10 days from now would be?
Well, we would push it off. If we're going to keep it on a Wednesday, then I think it would be bumped to the 20th.
Does that make sense?
Which is, 2 weeks calendar-wise.
All right. Do I hear a motion? Or more discussion?
Was
Just look at
Karen
the
making the
calendar.
motion? Were you making a
Sure,
motion?
I'd be happy to make a
Oh.
motion. Move that the select board vote to suspend the liquor license for the October 20th, 2021, the all alcohol liquor license held by the Grateful Haven LLC doing business as the Rivershed for 1 day on October 20th, 2021.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Vignani. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, motion carries. Do we need a roll call on that?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah, so just one last comment. So Sergeant, if there's any way that you can talk to the police department and see if there's any way, I mean, A, we want to do more of these checks.
Right.
We want to collaborate with the business owners in town to make sure that they're not serving minors.
Right.
And then also just everyone, if, you know, by doing more checks, if you're caught again, then it can't be that fluke, and that's when, you know, these policies and guidelines will get stricter and.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was doing them on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, quick COVID
hit,
came in.
yeah, so.
Yeah, great.
And I would just add that my last observation is that this was a private event, and it sounded like that's where the bartender got, you know, caught
It
off
was a
guard,
perfect
so to
storm,
speak. So
yeah,
just to make
it's like-
sure that,
Yeah.
you know, the same rules apply for private and public.
For
right?
sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're aware.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are very aware now.
All right, I think that's it. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. We had to do this.
Sergeant, can you just stay for 1 second?
What's your last name?
Just for the next item.
Oh, yes. So our next item is discuss, vote, request to stay suspension of liquor license, Village Market. Michael McInnes. Is Michael here?
I'm here. I didn't know
Oh.
if this was administrative. I'm not sure how this works. I know we had a hearing last week, but come on. Sure.
I mean, he's basically here observing.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, well,
Who's presenting, Cindy? His attorney sent a letter to the board.
yeah, that's why I read all the backup, and all I just wanted to be sure was that if he wanted to be here, or if his attorney wanted to be here, they had the right to be here. And so, we simply are here to vote on whether or not we're going to
That's my understanding.
stay the suspension.
I didn't.
I think it's somewhat routine. Cindy, maybe you can explain why it's routine, that if we don't vote to stay it.
If the way that particular violation came down, you made a date certain and it was appealed. And if you were to execute on that, and if they were found not to have been in violation, then you could potentially be in a situation where they may be looking to the town for some sort of damage, because you will have shut them down and deprived them of working and earning a living without any just cause. So it just seems that it might make more sense and would streamline the process for everyone and would be more consistent with how the rest of this group of violations have been treated.
Do we know how long these things take to get processed by ABCC? It's so.
Usually in their rules, it says 2 weeks. I haven't heard yet what the date is of you.
I haven't, but it seemed, when I spoke to the associate counsel, it seemed a pretty loose guideline at this point. 2 to 3 weeks is what I was told, but they wouldn't commit to anything.
All right. So, and you have an attorney, so they'll be on top of it, I'm sure.
I would be hesitant to expect a decision based solely on what their guidelines are recommending at this point, because they, like everybody else, are so backed up.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I was told.
All right. Anyone, Ms. Canfield?
Just a quick question. So if we approve the stay and they are found to be in violation, then will we reconvene to set a new date? Is that the way it would work?
I would assume so.
I think you could do it that way, or you could pick a date within a certain time period, like 2 weeks after the
the
date,
decision.
whatever
Then we'd have
makes
to vote
some
again.
sense. I mean, it seems that you want to give them some warning. It's really your choice whether you want to have them back in and have another discussion, or if you just want to pick, like a Wednesday, which seems to be what you had, a couple weeks after their decision of the appeal.
And does a town ever appeal the appeal if it doesn't go their way?
No.
Just
Yeah,
asking.
I would suggest that there's probably not a good reason for an appeal of an ABC decision unless there's something extremely egregious.
Okay.
And if you could say till all relevant appeals have been taken, and if the board were to find that the ABCC did something that you just felt you had no choice but to appeal, you could also stay execution of the penalty again.
All right. Well, any questions from the board?
I just have one quick question. Sergeant O'Brien, were you the one that was there on the evening when they went. So there was a little bit of discrepancy in the stories.
Right.
And I just wanted to see, so did the person that came out say that they got asked what their birth date was?
Yes,
They did?
yes.
Okay, because the chief didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Instead of asking for an identification, the party was asked for a date of birth.
great. Thank you.
And he didn't tell the truth,
Correct,
which is where the
correct.
issue is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want a motion for this?
Please.
I move that the board approve the request for MFJ Market, Inc., doing business as Village Market, that the one-day suspension of its package store wine and malt license scheduled for Wednesday, October 13th, be stayed pending an adjudication of the appeal, probably put these on, filed with the ABCC of the violation and suspension found by the Select Board following a hearing on 9/21/21.
Second?
Second.
Second by Ms.
Can we amend that?
What happened?
Can we amend that motion, ma'am?
Sure. Do you want
To say that should the appeal fail, that the suspension will occur the Wednesday 2 weeks after the issue is resolved.
Do we want
Just
to?
gonna add something quickly. I mean, if that fell on the day before Thanksgiving, that would be
Yeah, I think we should wait and see what
maybe
happens.
pending something. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll be open to whatever.
Well noted, okay. I was trying to save us some time.
No, I know, and I can have whatever.
Okay, I withdraw my amendment.
All right. Second? Second by Ms. Curran?
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
That would be pretty nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next on our agenda, discuss vote settlement of Dandel Construction, Inc. versus Town of Scituate Cudworth Cemetery Project. Attorney Cynthia Amara, Town Council. We reviewed in executive session an agreement that was drafted and signed by Dandel to pay them the amount of money that we owe them for the project that they did at Cudworth. It includes an agreement about fixing things that needed to be fixed, making sure that things were done according to the way they should have been done. And this won't cost the town more for any reason. It will cost the same amount of money for us to settle this. And if anyone wants to ask questions about what the dispute was, we just had a quick session on it, so I don't know if the board has any more questions.
Just that we got an additional 5-year warranty on the project, so I think that's a positive.
If I can just, you got an additional 5-year warranty on the pavement.
The paving,
portion.
right, yep, from the paving portion, yep.
Yes, Chris Karsha, could you identify yourself
Chris
as
Carter, 119 Stockbridge Road.
Capital Planning Committee?
Planning Committee.
Thank you.
Chair. This was a capital project that came to us in multiple phases. Was this part of a specific phase? Was it the total, at the end of everything? Is the project complete?
Cindy?
I think the project is just about complete. I believe this was a substantial completion. Invoice, this was one invoice, it was the last invoice. There are still some punch list items that they have to complete and will complete under this agreement. But my understanding is there are no more invoicing to be done.
Anyone else in the audience wish to inquire? No? All right, so we need to vote.
I move that the board vote to approve the settlement agreement and mutual release between Dandel Construction Company and the town of Scituate regarding outstanding invoices relating to the Cudworth Cemetery project, and to authorize the chair to execute the settlement agreement and mutual release on behalf of the board, a copy of which is filed herewithin.
We hear a second? Second by Mr. Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. The next is to discuss vote block party application for Daedalus Circle, October 24th, 2 to 6 p.m. with rain date October 31st. Merritt McGowan.
Hi.
Okay.
Evening.
Somebody want to tell me who's Merritt?
I am Merritt McGowan.
Okay. and
I
you-
am Erin Cahill. I'm a neighbor as well.
Okay, very good. Would you like to tell us what you're doing?
Sure. So we are hoping to organize a neighborhood block party on, we've amended the application, so it's now going to start at 19 Daedalus Circle. So we moved houses by one. and end at 32 Daedalus Circle. We're basically going to just have some fun fall activities, possibly pumpkin painting and bobbing for apples. We're going to have a bouncy house for the kids. We have a lot of kids, like new families in the neighborhood. So I think the average age is probably like 5 or 6. So our kids are same ages. But.
The superintendent likes to hear about more kids.
They go to Jenkins.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, we've talked to most of the neighbors. We did have one neighbor. We moved it because one of our neighbors just reseeded her lawn, so we're moving, so we're further away from her. But everyone's on board.
Don't want to go in and reseeded.
No, we don't.
Any questions from the board?
Nope, looks like everybody approves it within our, what I can tell.
Check.
And it's a nice quiet neighborhood, not a lot of.
Especially on the circle. That's
Yeah,
why.
not a lot
It won't be that
of traffic going through. So no questions.
No, I have nothing.
No.
Have a good
All
time.
right, nothing?
Move to approve a block party at, you said 19 till
19 to 32 Daedalus Circle.
32 Daedalus Circle on October 24th, 2021, from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. The rain date is on Halloween, October 31st, pending a departmental review for comments and approval.
I don't see anyone in the audience that is objecting, right? Just to make sure there are no.
I do think we do have a neighbor here, but I don't.
All right. Okay. Second by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, motion carries. Have fun.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Have fun.
Discuss vote, special event application, Alice's House Paint Crosswalk, October 7th to 8th, for a virtual walk at Hummerock, October 10th to 17th. I'm not quite understanding. Julie Johnson. Hello, Julie. I think you're Julie, right?
I am.
I've made that mistake before. So you're looking to paint the crosswalk on the 7th to the 8th?
Well, actually,
Explain.
yeah, so the event application, because it's a virtual walk, there's no gathering. So it's just people walk during that time, they'll post their activity. But what I did ask them about was we wanted to paint actually the spot between the stop line and the crosswalk with our logo stuff, and just to kind of make the area festive and call attention to the event. So the office recommended that I ask for an event permit for the painting of the ground, because we have a police detail scheduled, and that would be more of an event than the actual event.
There you go. Well, Andrew, I'll let you ask the question, I think.
The question?
Painting
The question.
crosswalks? The
Well, it's
question.
not, yeah, I just want to be sure, it's not the, I have an updated diagram, because I think my diagram was a little
Haven't we had crosswalk questions about?
Oh, that's not mine.
I usually allow everything. That's my position.
You'll allow everything?
Yeah.
where it is. So the crosswalk itself actually has the hash marks in it.
Yeah.
And then next to it, there's that white line that's actually right at the stop sign. So it goes the stop line, and then the crosswalk is beyond it. So the cars in the stop line, the stop sign are previous to the crosswalk. So we're not touching the crosswalk, so that's not going to be obscured. It's going to be that blank space about 4 feet by 18. That's the space beside the crosswalk.
And I have to admit, I didn't read all the paperwork. Has the police department approved this?
They did, actually. They confirmed. They actually wanted to know if we could do it tomorrow, and our artist can do it tomorrow. So if everything goes okay tonight, I have to send him a text and say yes.
All right.
So.
All right. Questions?
That was my question, is that's been the biggest concern with sort of renegade painting is.
Oh, no, it's not graffiti. It's actually.
No, I mean for public safety.
Right.
You don't want to obscure the stop sign, you don't want to obscure the crosswalk, obviously. So this is regular street paint, or what are you using? How long will it last?
It'll wash off in probably a couple of, maybe in a week or two.
So it's a
it won't
street
stay for long.
house paint,
Yeah,
not.
It's temporary, yeah.
Okay.
And it's, the traffic in Hummerock right now is pretty slow. So they're gonna try and get out there at 1 o'clock. I have the detail ready for 1 to 5. So they figure 2 hours of painting, 2 hours for it to dry,
and will be covered that whole time. And it won't go across the entire road, the two lanes, so we'll still have flow. Always.
And is the logo, the Rock Your Heart, the one that's on the letterhead?
So it's actually just like a blue-green base, and then they'll do all the pink hearts on top of it, and they'll put the lettering, Rock Your Heart 21.
Okay, terrific.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one. So is that what's being painted? There's not like freelance, write messages, do whatever you want on this?
Oh, no,
Okay.
there's 3 artists coming down that are gonna do, it's a replication of a piece of artwork that's in the house.
Okay.
And it's just a collage of different colored hearts. And then the
Perfect.
lettering up the side will just say Rock Your Heart 21. Just a little bit to bring awareness, because it is a virtual event. There'll be no, on the ground people gathering. It'll just be, there's so many people that walk all the time anyway, we give them a week to do it. And it'll just bring awareness that the event's
Right?
happening.
So all I want to say is thank you.
Yeah, are
Yes.
you gonna put a date on it at all, so
I'm
people
sorry?
know? Will there be a date on it?
Well, it's out in the airwaves right now, so
Okay.
social media is taking
So
care of
people
that.
know.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you're using temporary paint makes me feel much better, so.
Oh, yeah, it'll wear off, and that's why we were trying to get it as close to the week that the walk is advertised as the 10th to the 17th, so we're trying to get them to go in like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, so it wouldn't be completely gone.
Gotcha.
Now I understand it all.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Motion?
Motion, please.
Move to approve the special event permit for Alice's House to Pink Good crosswalks at Central Avenue and Marshfield Avenue on tomorrow, October 6th and 7th.
It would just be tomorrow, October
just on
6th.
October
Yeah,
6th,
from 1 to 5 will be the
With
coverage.
a rain date of
The 7th.
the 7th.
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 8-0, motion carries. Thank you for coming
Great,
in.
thanks so much. Thank you.
Good luck with your event, exactly. So now, special event application fundraiser. Howl Oween at the dog park. I'm gonna howl at the moon with dogs, right?
You can howl at the moon if you want.
I might. So this is the dog park, October 30th, 2 to 5 p.m. with a rain date of October 31st, and Lisa Huffman.
Yep. Hi.
Good, I did it again. So would you like to tell us about this fun event you're having with all the, I think dogs are invited, yes?
Yes, the dogs are actually going to be wearing the costumes if all goes well.
Not my dog.
Yes.
You
so,
tear it up.
Usually our big annual fundraiser is held at the Barker Tavern. It's our Halloween costume party for humans. And we had a date scheduled with Becky at the Barker to do it this year after not doing it last year. And then this summer with the Delta variant and numbers going up again, we just decided that it was best to put it off again this year. But we wanted to do something, we have the ability to do events outside at the dog park like we did in the spring with the Scituate Animal Shelter. So one of our board members said, well, how about we get the dogs in costume and have an event at the park? So that's what this event is. We are selling tickets for $5 per dog entry as part of our fundraiser. And then we have some local businesses that are sponsoring the event and other businesses that are offering items up for raffles. So we'll sell raffle tickets at the event too. There'll be prizes given away for the best costume, scariest costume, cutest costume, whatever. We'll have dog treats to hand out, but we don't have plans for any human food consumption. And we'll probably have like bottles of water there for people if they want them. And that's about it. It's just going to be something fun. We're still trying to get the small dog park built, and the last year to 18 months, we've taken a hit with our savings because we haven't been making as much fundraising money as we have in the past years. So, we're happy to get back at it and do this event outside.
All right, questions from the board?
Just one, where does the fundraising go? The money?
It's going towards building the small dog park. Yes. Yes.
Laura?
I would only say I think you can get more than $5 a dog, but that's your decision, but I think you could raise more, and seems like you have everything worked out with parking and all that, so.
Yeah, so I mean, I put on here a police detail, but I wanted to kind of get your feedback. We had a police detail for the Pause for a Cause event that we did with the animal shelter, and it was definitely helpful because we had a lot more people than we're expecting for this event. So I'm not sure what your feeling is. Like, we're anticipating probably like 10 volunteers and maybe 40 adults, you know, attending with their dogs. So I think if one of us was at the gate and we advertised like we did with the Pause for the Cause, that any overflow parking, if the lot was full, should park at Greenbush. You know, I don't know if we need the police detail, but I didn't know what the protocol was for that. And certainly if you guys encourage us to do that, we will follow through with it.
I guess my suggestion would be to at least touch base with the police again.
Okay.
And explain that again. Because
Sure.
if we had someone here tonight, like Jim would know, or Lorraine, you might know, is there a protocol in terms of the number of people where a police detail is definitely required versus, the only concern I've got with the date and the place is that the boaters are still kind of out there kayaking, the golfers are still out there.
Yeah.
The MBTA parking lot is now a construction site. It's like, who knows what's going on down at Untold Brewery, you know. So I think parking might be, I don't know, an issue.
Okay.
But
I did ask Deb if she had heard back from the Scituate Police for these events, and she had not heard back yet from Taylor Bing, so you were allowed to touch base with them.
Okay, okay, great, I will.
all right, and I don't think we have to approve or disapprove, that's up to them. It's an administrative thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we do follow it up in our office.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, for us, we don't have to,
Yes.
all right.
It is a tricky piece of road, though. People
Yeah.
do park
Yeah.
on the grass there.
Right,
There's people going to drop their brush off, so.
okay. Well,
How many spots are in the lot? Not 4.
23,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I agree with you. If the police think we should have one, I'd
Okay,
caution.
I'll call Taylor tomorrow and just do
Okay.
whatever he recommends.
All right, thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, concerns?
No, I just want to say.
Anyone in the
great
audience?
job on the cleanup.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
The team of volunteers out there, it was wonderful.
Yeah, they did a great job. It was a huge improvement.
Motion?
Motion, please.
Move to approve a special event permit to the Friends of Scituate Dog Park for their special event Halloween dog costume party fundraiser on October 30th, 2021 at the Scituate Dog Park at 167 Driftway.
Second by Mr. Vignani, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, motion carries.
Great.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, have fun.
All right, thanks so much.
You want to just reconsider, I mean, Bill's going to sit out there for an hour and a half.
Okay, all right.
Ask,
Just let
see
me
if
know.
anybody else.
I don't think so. Madam Chair?
Yes.
Town council need to stay further?
I don't think there's anything, you have the agenda?
I didn't see
I don't
anything
think
else
so.
that I knew anything about in advance of the meeting agenda.
Well, public hearing, discuss vote Widows Walk, all alcohol license, change of manager. We shouldn't have a problem with that, right?
The other question is the letter from the developer.
Well, that's not a legal matter.
Okay. If you say so, I'm happy to keep it.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's a legal matter.
No, just 200 cats.
I have,
Someone suggest it and see. Or
we
we'll go after
we
that.
have, we could. We have a number of people here waiting to be interviewed for board and committee applications. One, two, three. The suggestion is to move the article for feasibility study up in front of, either in front of that or in front of the Border
Yeah,
Street.
we just have a school superintendent and finance director sitting here.
I understand, but we also have citizens sitting here.
So I would
So-
recommend that we do the committee applicants pretty quick, right?
Okay.
Because we usually have some great candidates that we can get through pretty quickly. A lot of it's
Right.
just renewal, I would imagine, reappointment. And then I would support moving it up before the Border Street discussion.
Okay. That's fine.
Good.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay. So, board and committee applicants. Council on Aging, Deirdre Dwyer. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us about yourself and why you're interested in the Council on Aging?
Sure. I'm Dee Dwyer, and I've lived in Scituate for 30 years. I moved here when I married my husband, Dave, who is a townie and loves Scituate, and I have grown to love Scituate also. I'm very interested in increasing the awareness of the programs for seniors and working with community leaders and residents to get more people involved in this beautiful senior center that we have. I'm amazed at the programs that are being offered. During my husband's illness, I realized the importance of having to know about the benefits and programs that a community would offer. And for example, I took advantage of the Shine program at the Scituate Senior Center and received excellent healthcare insurance information from Norm Tatro, and I miss that he's retired. He really was so helpful in a very dark period of my life, actually. So as a resident, I have volunteered in numerous activities for St. Mary's Church. My husband and I served as pre-Cana facilitators. I was a treasurer of the Ladies Guild, and currently I am on the parish council. For the past 15 years, I have commuted to many towns in Eastern Mass for my work, but I have been able to take part in the programs offered by the Recreation Department, spinning, restore the core, and ball and weight classes, and I can't say enough about them. And I've also been used the library all the time, one of my favorite places, and again, that's a great resource for the town. So as a senior, I'm interested in getting some programs or getting more opportunities for seniors who are still working so that they can partake in the activities at the senior center. Because right now it's pretty much people that are not working. I love this town, and I think this role is perfect for me for giving back to the community. Besides my personal experience, I bring to the table my business experience, strong communication, interpersonal skills, ability to listen to all sides, and also a proven track record to get projects done on time. I'm passionate, committed, and motivated to keep Scituate the great town that it is. And I feel that I have the time and the energy to work on behalf of the town and the residents as a member of the board of directors for the senior center. And I appreciate your consideration of my application.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you for coming in. Who's the liaison?
The last
Oh, two. All right, Ms. Canfield. Would you like to start?
Just very quickly, our excellent candidate, obviously. Thank you so much for coming out. I just want to note there are 3 openings. 3 of the members that have left were in deep to help make sure the building was built. And I just want to take a little moment to acknowledge Janice Desmond, Caitlin Coyle, and Janice Lindblom, who worked really hard. And so, as you pointed out, this is like the new era. So you've been to a meeting?
I haven't been to the meeting. I've been to the senior center. It is gorgeous. And it's so light and airy. I should have that at my house. But it is gorgeous. And, I met a lot of, St. Mary's people there, partaking in activities.
Amanda Hayes, the director.
I didn't meet her, no. I just kind of did self-tour.
I just pointed out, since this group has worked, the yeoman's work in the last year, to get the building open and running, and now it's doing exactly what we thought, which is you build it and they come, and the programming is exploding. So it's a great group to get involved with, and I'm sure that your passion and enthusiasm would be a good addition to this group. But I would encourage you to, obviously, you have to see how the vote goes.
Right.
Is to reach out to some of the members and get to know them quickly, because they're some groups are just coming together. This one's pretty tight.
Right. Well, and I am on the parish council with Susan Kelly, so I do know her. Okay. So I've talked to her. I know Marie Fricker. Is she still on there?
I believe she is.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah, she's been in some groups. So,
great group.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Wait, excuse me, just,
We'll all
there
ask.
may
We
be
have-
other questions. There may be other questions. There may not be, but.
Okay. Any other questions?
Tony?
Probably more praise than questions. You said it very well, your passion and your knowledge of the town and the other resources that it have, and that's what we're trying to do right now. We had this great group that was there to help get it built, and now we're just trying to publicize it and get everybody to use all of the great stuff that we have there. So I think you'd be great to help with that. So thanks for volunteering.
All right.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you because you seem like a doer, and what I've been impressed by everybody that's come before us this season, if you will, is the energy and the willingness to really act and not just go sit at a table once a month and talk about things, but to really be active. And you seem to have a very specific goal, which is to help communicate really the value in the programs, which is terrific. I'm sure they would welcome that assistance. So it's a great asset.
It would be exciting, yeah.
Mr. Goodrich?
Yes, again, I wanted to stay, because we don't have many opportunities to just really thank you, but you were so impressive in your knowledge of what's happening, programs, and how you communicate. I think you're going to be a fabulous asset.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Can I go?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
All right.
Welcome to stay on with us.
Next, we have 3 applicants for the Sister City Ireland. James Canavan.
Here.
Would you like to come up? Thank you, sir. Would you like to tell us about yourself?
My name is Jim Canavan. I live at 11 Bunny Lane in Scituate. Been here almost 3 years and loving it. I've been volunteering with the Sister City Committee since the day we arrived. And I'm serving on the board of the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail as well. You appointed me to the Coastal Advisory Commission 2 years ago, and I've just been renewed for that too. So the Sister City Committee, though, is my first love. And then Brenda's right here, so I have to say that, but it's true, it's true. My father's folks are from Galway, my mother's people are from Cork. And a couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough, my wife at the time was chancellor at UNC Asheville. So I was one of 2 faculty who took 19 students on a study abroad trip to Dublin and Belfast. And they were all business majors, but my job was to link the Irish literary revival to the business end of things that they were learning over there. So, because without culture, there'd be no Irish economy, I like to believe. So it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun working with the Sister City Committee. You know, because of COVID, we've lost 2 exchange periods where we've had the students coming and going, but we're just saving our money for that day when we can send some Scituate kids over there and some of those kids from Cork can come over here. So I look forward to being officially appointed to the Sister City Committee.
Thank you. Tony?
Sure. Jim is the perfect person to put on this committee. He has been involved since day one, or since you moved to town anyways. You go to the events, you go to the meetings, you know what's going on with it. You got your pulse on everything that's going on in this committee, and this is the best committee in the town, right? It is, they've done a ton of stuff, they have a ton of fun, it's great people. If you get lucky, I'm not scared, she's the reason why it's thriving. So you get to go to Ireland, if that ever comes back, it is actually fabulous, and you'd be a great asset to it. So I can't say any
Thanks.
Ms. Canfield?
No, there's a recommendation in the packet from Chair recommending this appointment. That's good enough for me. But I know the hard work you've already put in.
Andrew?
Yeah, thank you for all the work you've done, and in advance for the work I know you'll continue to do.
Absolutely, thanks.
Mark?
Sorry to lose you on coastal, but I think
You're
it's
not.
important.
You're
So
not.
you can vote?
You've already reappointed me to that.
Oh, okay, that's what I was going to say. I was confused about that.
This
Okay.
morning, and by
And all
virtue.
good? I just want you to be happy, because I think happy volunteers are better volunteers, so.
It's all good. This morning with the hazard mitigation team met, and I've been serving on that sort of as a volunteer as well, so. But thank you for all you do. I mean, it's the least we can do is serve on committees. You're doing all the hard stuff, so thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, all I want to say is thank you to our committee chairs who are out recruiting people. It makes this job much easier. So, well done.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch with you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vincent Quealy Jr.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
So first, thank you for the opportunity to interview for an open position on the Scituate West Cork Sister Committee. I think that being able to say the name officially and correctly is probably one of my key credentials, actually. So yes, thank you. Open to questions. How do we proceed?
Tell us why you're interested in the committee, beside the obvious that you might get a trip to Ireland,
Sure.
you get to work on this with these
Sure.
wonderful people.
Brenda would be mad at me if I'm not interested in the committee, so that's one key reason. But no, seriously, so I'm the grandson of Irish grandparents, both of whom were born and lived in Ireland through their adulthood, only immigrated to the United States in their adulthood. And so all the while that I was growing up, my whole childhood experience was really immersed in Irish tradition, Irish history, and so I gained a very clear appreciation for the many contributions that Irish culture has made to our own literary, historic, musical, political contributions to our culture. So I sort of grew up with that as a family surrounded by Irish grandparents right from County Clare, and then that also has sort of a whole large family of brothers and sisters. Each of the grandparents were one of 6 and one of 9. So lots of aunts and uncles who remained living in Ireland. And then that close immediacy of the grandparents living there enabled me to get my Irish citizenship, which I have. And so we've traveled to Ireland quite often, annually at least, if not more than that. So a deep-rooted interest in all things Ireland. And then coupled, I guess, with a long time in Scituate. One grandfather purchased a home on Seagate Circle after the war. And so that was his summer home. But each of our, we spent many, many summers there as children. And then my wife Joni and I purchased a home here 12 years ago in 2010. It will be 12 years ago. So coming to be a long time official resident of the town. So those two sort of complementary pieces really led to a deep interest in all things Irish, and certainly Scituate, the town, enjoys a very long and very deep-rooted Irish history, and so that brought lots of interest to my attention as well. I've had the good fortune to serve as a member of the Boston College Ireland Business Council also for very many years, and so I think that hopefully that will bring some networking opportunities to the committee as well in the future.
Good. Andrew?
No, I think you're deep-rooted, understanding and knowing, again, from the chair, what's happening and what's moving forward. I think it's a key element of what we're looking for in an applicant. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Maura?
Well, and you've got the, recommendation of the chair again here, and she certainly is a great leader and has a very high bar, so if you meet that bar, I know that
That's the hard part.
You're an active member, which is important, so thank you.
That's the hard part. Of course, delighted.
Mr. Vignani?
Yeah, no additional questions. I think we're going to see a lot of great candidates. So
Yeah,
here's what I will say to all of you if you're in the room now. If I'm looking at this correctly, there's 5 people for 3 spots. Is that possibly with?
I've kind of allocated some people to some different spots.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that as well.
Yeah.
But for this, so if you don't get put on the committee, you can still participate. Just look at Jim. You can go to the events, you can go to the meetings,
Yes.
you can hear what's going on. I'm not saying you're not going to get put in, but there's going to be 2 people here that aren't going to get on potentially. So, but I think you have great credentials. I love the thought of the BC kind of collaboration as well. So thank you.
Yeah, that's been a really good group, which mission itself is the Boston College Ireland Business Council, really aligns fairly tightly with the mission of the Scituate West Cork Sister City Committee. The mission of that Ireland Business Council is to promote business expansion and investment, particularly focused on the New England region and Ireland. So I think the hope is that can develop into some networking and business opportunities down the road as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Ms. Canfield?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The cross-fertilization of your experience, the Heritage Trail, and the Sister City missions
is going to be so, and the visitor center too, all of those things come together.
There's so
in the next
much, yeah.
couple of years, all hands on deck is definitely needed. So.
Yeah, there's so much to pursue there, absolutely, yes.
Very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, it is, yeah, no doubt.
Thank you for letting Brenda drag you. No, thank you for volunteering.
No, delighted to.
Thank you for coming in.
Of course, thank you for your time.
And Mr. Raymond Volker?
Good
Hello.
evening. Hi.
So, would you like to tell us about yourself and why you're interested?
I would. Like the little TV commercial where the fella has his lederhosen on and then he goes to Ancestry and finds out he has to change the lederhosen to a kilt. I'm a little different. Volker is a Dutch and German last name, and I've always identified as that. And then we did our Ancestry, and I turned out to have a lot of Irish relatives, mostly from North Kerry, North Cork, slew of great-grandparents in Derry, and goes back to Shanahans and Hayeses, and all the way to the Kennedys in 1790. So I'm a mutt. I'm very, very mixed. But you know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, really started to delve into, you know, the Irish, and said to the family, how did this happen? And they said, well, both your grandmothers were Irish. And, well, nobody told me. By way of a little background, we moved here 15 months ago. We're in James Landing. We were, both my wife and I, very active in her hometown of Cheshire, Connecticut, which was historically a farm town. And I was involved we had a town manager form of government on the council, and at that time we actually adopted mutually a sister city of Burton, Ohio. So I, you know, kind of know how it works. Burton was part of the Western Reserve of Connecticut way back when. It's in east of Cleveland. Also through our church, we had some sister cities in Central America. You know, I want to be involved. I understand there might be, you know, limited space, but I was told that they were happy to have a German guy on the Scituate softball, the old-timer softball league. I said, you're kidding, I'm the only German here? He says, yeah, the other 150 of us are Irish, but they're not. So that's kind of, you know, in a little thumbnail sketch of me.
Well, I'm an Ernst, so I understand. Ms. Canfield.
I just want to say I have had the pleasure of working with Mr. Volker for the last forever, since he's moved here on the Charter Review Commission. And we're not letting him go, but his contributions there have been very, very appreciated and helpful to that process. So he knows how to work in a committee for darn sure, and it's been a pleasure. And you're not leaving until we're done. So
Yeah, I understand that, and you're very kind. I make the quorum. That's my strongest, right? That's my strongest ability.
I doubt it.
But
Karen doesn't let anyone get away without something to do with an assignment, so.
Well, she's been very kind to me, yeah. So.
Yeah, I have no questions or anything to add. I think you have a great resume and great participation in your prior town's government, so welcome to Scituate.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we may have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I won't keep you, I agree, and thank you for all your service on the Charter Commission, so I know that's pretty dry work, so thank
Well,
you.
it's a pleasure. It's a really good group, and they were way behind me. They're educating me.
Well, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
Now, if no one objects, we have the superintendent of school here patiently waiting, and Dr. Dutch, the finance director, to discuss the Article 4 feasibility study and schematic for the Hatherley Elementary School. And Mr. Danahy, we just switched the order, so we're taking the school superintendent first because he's been patiently waiting, but we're kind of on schedule, so hopefully it won't be too long.
All right.
Yes.
We got 10 minutes.
Yes.
I wasn't invited, but it was a follow-up. It was it's the follow-up, because we just met, Capital just met with them.
Right.
You want my report also?
Sure. Why don't you, Dr. Dutch, the superintendent, and you come up? We'll try to keep things moving along here.
There's nothing going on tonight.
Nothing going on. Nothing to see here.
There's no Red Sox game.
You said he would have this meeting over in an hour.
Now, to be honest with you, I don't care. But I know there are people who do care, so I'm trying to do everyone a favor, but
Oh, is he
when
serious?
does the
with
game start?
It
Yeah.
started.
It started.
It'll be a long game, don't worry.
All right. Well,
Guaranteed. Yeah.
okay. So, Chris Karcha, the chair of the Capital Planning Committee, you did take a vote on this.
So we did, we met last week. We had members of the school committee and Dr. Dutch and Mr. Burkhead in. We had a long discussion about why we're doing this, what's involved, and what we're paying for. I guess the easiest part of the discussion was Nancy has identified articles to pay for it with, so there won't be any borrowing involved. Cross our fingers. So beyond that, we discussed why we needed to do this. And the Capital Planning Committee did vote unanimously to support it, only because we could find no logical reason not to. This is not an endorsement of we want to, go directly at building a new school, but this study is required to move forward in any part of the process, whether it's fixing the current or building a new. This study lays the groundwork for any kind of reimbursement program that we want to get involved with. So no matter what we want to do, no matter how much we want to spend, this study needs to happen. So like I said, we did vote unanimously for it. I will say that the unanimous was 3 votes, because that's literally who showed up. So
You're a 5-person committee?
we're,
No, I wasn't asked. I'm asking, are you supposed to have 5 members?
we have 7 voting members, 5 appointed by town moderator, 2 by osmosis, or however they're appointed.
So this was a quorum
We had
vote
a quorum.
of the,
We had a bare minimum quorum of the available voting members.
okay.
So,
That's a follow-up question?
Sure.
So was a school committee member one of those voting members? Because they are allowed to vote. They
No.
have- So that
So-
raises a question why a school committee representative wouldn't be there to vote on their own project.
so the school committee member assigned to capital planning did not attend. There was a representative from the school committee there to answer questions, not as a voting member.
Yeah, there was a last-minute emergency for the voting member who couldn't make it, so a member in his place showed up but could not vote, but was there to answer questions and be part of the conversation.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Karcha?
No, thanks for doing it.
Thank you. So 3-0 in favor. Okay. All right. Now we have the superintendent and Dr. Dutch, the finance director, here. There were some questions at our last meeting. I don't know who would like to start. Mr. Goodrich?
Sure, I didn't know if they were going to present anything, or if...
Can you give a quick overview of?
Yes, so we're asking for $1.1 million for the next phase. We're in the eligibility phase, which is the first phase, which was voted on by the select board to go before the statement of interest, which we approved. Obviously, and this is mandated by the MSBA, as Mr. Kacha had mentioned. And what this money is used for is to begin the feasibility study in the schematic design phase of the project, which helps us hire a owner's project manager, which acts as our clerk of the works on our behalf to get the project up and running, hire the architect, and begin the work of digging into what the bones of the project's going to look like, what the building is going to look like, if it's a renovation, for example, if it's a consolidation of buildings, a real deep dive into the previous one that was done to put as part of the SOI, the master study. And I might add also that if there's money left over for this, that it could go towards the building of the new project or the renovations if we needed to.
Additionally, it is reimbursable as well, of the 1.1 million, somewhere between 40 to 43% could be reimbursed.
If we go forward.
If you go forward, only if you go forward with the schematic design and the feasibility, that's also reimbursable.
Ms. Canfield?
Yeah, just to clarify that, so if we do this feasibility study and don't go any further, then we incur the full costs?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The second question is, it's really just a statement. I think that some of the confusion about this article is, it says feasibility study and schematic for Hatherley Elementary School, and I think that's been confusing to folks as they're reviewing this. So could you just speak to that for a minute, why that language is in the article as opposed to the recommendation, which is a whole new building kind of thing?
Yeah, so when there were two statement of interests put in, one was for Hatherley, one was for Cushing, to increase the odds of getting one or the other, with both kind of the same concept. I think there were 6 plans that were agreed upon by the committee. 4 of them included building new schools, and I think 4 also included the combination of those. There was also some renovation costs mixed in there as well. So the Hatherley project was the one chosen by MSBA to look at. I will say they typically don't renovate schools that size. They would likely, and that was the recommendation, again, from Scituate at the time, would be to consolidate the Cushing and the Hatherley. So by putting 2 in, you got 1 with the potential of doing that plan. So it's called the Hatherley project because Hatherley and Cushing were both put in. That was the one chosen by MSBA. But the options under this plan could be all the way from renovating that school to combining the Cushing and the Hatherley. So we don't know, that's why we need the feasibility, although there was a shorter one version done. This would be a more in-depth one, obviously, that would determine all of that, whether we build 1 new school and close down the 2, or renovations, part of the study. I think that's that.
Tony?
Yeah, we've gone through this a couple times. Yeah. Most recently with the high school, this is the first step that we have to do. It's a big step, right? If we choose not to do it, it's $1 million cost. But the upside of it is that if we do build a $100 million school, as Dr. Dutch said, we will get, $40 plus million in funding from the state. So, that's the decision at hand. Do we want to proceed with this? Do we think we need a new school? Many of us have walked in Hadley and we see that it's not really built to the educational models that other schools are built at now. So it's the first step going down that path.
And may I follow up on that, Mr. Vignani? I don't know if you received it yet, but I did offer at the last, Mr. Goodrich was at the Capitol meeting. I invited the Capitol board, and we will invite this board as well as school committee on a tour of the building. If you haven't been in there, I think it's really helpful. I mean, it's one thing to hear it from me. I've only been here a year, but to go and take the tour with our facilities director, with Kevin Kelly, to go around and see that and ask questions and get those questions answered, I think would be helpful also. I know that's after the vote, but certainly I think it's a powerful way to kind of get your questions answered on the learning programs is really what we're talking about as a renovation versus a new building. We were hit pretty hard on special education, and you'll kind of see, and it was mentioned in a previous meeting, something to the effect, we literally do have custodial closets that have been shifted into special education classrooms. So it's the learning that's being impacted is the concern I have. So.
I would just add, thank you for the offer for the tour. My kids went to Cushing. I have no doubt that the renovations are needed since they've been out of that school for probably 15 years, and it needed it back then. Yeah. So no doubt there that it's needed. And that edification also, I think, is a part of that committee that you will ultimately have to put together, right?
Yes.
To make sure that this is a success.
Yep.
I think one of the questions that I'm going to let my colleague here go through, but I think one of the concerns is why the board wanted you both to come back in front of us is really to talk about all these projects that we have approved in past years that haven't been implemented. And I know the two of you are newer, but, you know, hopefully looking back into why certain capital projects haven't been implemented. You know, we've got some appropriations here from 2015, 2017 that haven't been addressed or completed. And we're dipping into free cash, which impacts, you know, other services that we're able to support in town when we're looking at funds. And they're not huge, these two line items, you know, they probably total $90,000, but still I think that is some of the, and I'm not speaking for you, but I thought the concerns that he raised were valid last week, just to understand, you know, what is your interim plan on some of these capital projects while we're asking the town to invest another $1.1 million to go forward, right? What is the plan in the meantime, right? Because we all know this is a very lengthy process.
So I can't answer what happened in the past and why it wasn't done previously. I can tell you that I now, having been here for a year, have a better picture of what the capital improvements were that were approved. And we're starting to pick away at those. For example, one is a $50,000 stairway at the Jenkins School. So we've just gotten 3 quotes for that, and that'll be happening this year. The same is true with the portico at Wampatuck and the parking lots at Wampatuck and the locker room renovations at the high school. So those are 4 projects that we plan to do this year.
That are underway.
That are, well, the stairs are scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3, we have architects assisting in getting the specs for putting those out to bid. So they are in process. I think the other piece of that is that we're also looking at all of our facilities and trying to keep us from being in a situation similar to where we are with Hatherley and Cushing, and it getting to the point of no return. So we want to make sure, and we've done it this year, again, because we were able to have some additional funds in the budget this year, to create a line item for a maintenance plan, so that we can actually follow through on maintaining what we have so that we don't have to keep building new. And our hope is that we can continue to grow that line item by finding savings elsewhere, and then ultimately not having to have these large capital expenditures because we've been maintaining our facilities. So that's where we are at this point.
Thank you for that shift in philosophy.
You're welcome. Before?
This was a large part of the discussion at our meeting, was what about all these projects that we have funded in the past? We know that going out, it's at least 5 years before we even scratch the ground to do anything on this project. So we still need to address leaking windows and things like that, other maintenance projects in these buildings. So we did discuss, what about pushing this project off? Nancy's identified $200 million in capital projects over the next 5 years. I don't even know if that includes this. Okay. But in addition to everything else, you know, is this something that we pursue right now? This study is going to give us a roadmap of what these 3 schools, or at least the 2.
2 for certain, and there's a potential for some
to include Wampatuck.
Remodel. There's also some consideration of repairs to Wampatuck as part of that discussion.
But it gives us even a better roadmap than the Habib study did of what these schools are going to need, what the cost is going to be, and, you know, all of that. So even if we don't move forward at all, we're going to have a roadmap of what we need to do. Hatherley and Cushing don't meet the structural requirements of the new school programming. So it's something we need to acknowledge, but again, do we need to acknowledge that
and build a school immediately, or can we push it out 5 or 10 years? And if we do push it out that far, can we maintain them that long in order to plan for bigger projects? So, yeah, we did discuss, these other projects in great detail.
And I just, if I might just, thank you, Chris. And I think that meeting was outstanding, and I think getting to know the people and the history, to learn this with Bob and I, and for you to understand our philosophy, I want to make it very clear that, we don't want, we take the taxpayers' money very seriously in the investment. And I think, just to reiterate what Bob said, we're the first ones to make a commitment to a maintenance line item that has never existed, because it's our responsibility to take care of our schools. And we don't want to keep coming back here asking for more money from the taxpayers. So we want that to be clear. So we're going to, or tapping into capital all the time. So I think, that maintenance line is a start, but I think it's a philosophy shift. I think the other thing that Bob and I sat down with last year is we noticed the same things that, Mr. Goodrich brought up, is this money's been approved. Why aren't these things fixed? I mean, so right away, Bob's already digging back to the low-hanging fruit of the past and addressing those, and the ones we just got are getting those addressed, because we aren't going to be the folks that don't get these done, that you have to say this in 3 years that you didn't get it done. So, hopefully this is the last brand-new school in a long time, and we'll show evidence, I think, in the next few years through our capital planning and our in-house maintenance planning on, taking this very seriously and how we keep our schools up to par and not having to come back here for another one.
The other thing to keep in mind is, as you consider what Chris had said, if we were to try and repair Hatherley and Cushing on our own capital expenditures, that means that, obviously the resource is finite. That means that the projects at Jenkins and Wampatuck are going to be deferred even further, and now you're going to be in a similar situation in those buildings 10 years down the road. So there's an opportunity here for reimbursement that I don't think you should pass over.
Mr. Goodrich.
It was a good meeting. It was a bit tense at times, and I don't want there to be that tension, because I care about other aspects for the taxpayers and other priorities. I have to try to prioritize. Of course. My first question: Are our students safe in our schools today?
They are.
Yes.
They're safe. Are we providing them an excellent education today?
Yes.
So to me, I hear that, and I see that any other improvement, and the main improvement that I heard at that meeting, it was a long meeting, was that many of our classrooms in these schools they abut the gym. So for indoor recess, right? So I asked my son, who has a class there, the teacher does something amazing. She shuts the door, and they don't hear it. When we talked about resiliency, this is how students going to school care about their students going to school impact resiliency back in 2008. And to me, my concern, those are actual students going to school that day.
Actual Scituate students?
Those are Scituate students from the Boston Globe 2018. They went to school. That girl went to school. I have to today, and think about Front Street and all the other projects that Nancy talks about, I'm much more concerned about her getting to school that day than how loud it is. I'm much more concerned, for a whole year, the classroom was my son's laundry room. It's not the classroom I'm mostly concerned about, it's the safety and the type of education, and then we're investing in our teachers. That's me as a parent. I think that number's probably even low, Nancy, for $200 million for capital projects. I don't know if that has the harbor resiliency, which is at least $80 million. There's $114 million. We keep talking about what are we going to do with this water treatment plant. That's not my concern. There's another $70 million after that. And I think I've seen this movie before, because we just talked about what are the capital priorities. And I didn't hear anything for Cushing. I didn't hear anything for Hatherley. So nothing will get done this year. And so what's going to happen? It's going to pass tonight. It's going to pass a town meeting. And my gut is, it's probably not gonna, I don't think the last school project passed by that much. I think people are gonna look at the master plan and realize that we had people go down the master plan and building a new school was not part of our master plan. And I don't think it's gonna be prioritized. And I would rather use this 1.1 million today and put it and fix the windows at Hatherley, fix Cushing, to help those kids today and not wait 5 years. Where would you, I'm asking, you've been in this town, what should our number one priority be? It should be brown water? Should it be sewers?
Can I answer that in defense of capital planning? Because, I mean, it's what you're trying to address. All of these are giant capital projects. We need this study to identify the cost of whatever project is moving forward in the school world. We also have studies in, going on for the water treatment plant. We have resiliency studies and whatnot. Then it comes to capital planning. My little committee that meets 3 months out of the year and whatnot, and we don't shed a whole lot of light on anything, but we do sit down and discuss this and have to prioritize this. We understand that there is $200 million, so, all of these numbers. This is our job to prioritize this. So I need.
Is this your number one priority?
This is not, but I need
Okay, what number would you put?
I need this study to know where it is in the priorities.
Dude, we just spent $90,000. This is our second study. We had a $90,000 study, and now there's a $1.1 million study. You've seen the $90,000 study. Which should I? So I'll tell you what the students. I don't get many emails, but I'll tell you what happened last year. Some very smart students in the 8th grade who reached out, the civics lesson. They asked me. They're doing a whole civics lesson last year. Caitlin, these are people who just left some of these same schools, and they did a whole thing about what's the number one priority in Scituate, and they said brown water. And they said, what's the current plan and timeline for fixing brown water? Why is it taking so long to fix this issue? Wonderful conversations with them about Prop 2.5. These are the same kids who are just in there, and they see it. What would, as Mr. Chairman, what's the number one priority for capital?
There isn't a number one priority. There are multiple projects going on all the time. There is no number one priority. The number one priority is to run the town as efficiently and as properly as possible. Water is a big project and is an ongoing multi-phase project. And every time, when the capital projects come, when those requests come through, they are reviewed and they are, approved or not approved based on the merits of that project. It's not that we can take all of the money and spend it on water right now and not address schools, not address fire departments, not address all of the other things that we need to do to operate the town.
This is for my colleagues. If I'm not going to change anyone's mind, so I don't want to belabor this. But if any of these issues were a priority to such a degree that there's some issue in some school, I would expect either the school committee or this to come knocking on, demanding that we fix this, and it hasn't happened. We need to fix this window. We need to fix it. No, today we still sit here, not one project to fix either one of those. But we'll have a study. The last two capital projects have been study and study. I've stood under that portico at Wampatuck, which is $120,000. At least 500 times. I can think of 50 projects for $120,000 rather spend. $700,000 for a locker room at the high school. Yes, that would be fixed, but we're talking about how these other schools have all these other issues. If there was such an issue, I would have expected, and I would vote for that tomorrow. I'm trying to give the $1.1 million to the actual school, and not to some consultants who I think the voters are going to say no to when it actually comes up for a vote. But I'll stop.
Yes, you may. Want to step into that?
So that's one of the challenges we as a board face and have faced for years and years and years, right? Our town has been grossly ignored for years, and it's been this board, the board before us, who started to actually make movement probably 10 years ago and prior to that, that we're living with. So we're always going to have these projects that we have to balance, and it is a tough decision, but at the end of the day, it's up to the voters. It's our job to bring the problems and the solutions forward to the public. This is my opinion, right? It's our job to bring it forward to the public. That's why we have town meeting. That's why the schools go out and educate the parents and the, look, we all know that the quality of our schools has a direct impact on our real estate prices, the investments that we make. You heard it last night at the school committee. People are upset about MCAS. These guys need to give these folks, you know, these children, an environment in which they can provide the proper new, you know, project-based learning philosophy so these kids can compete in the world that we have coming before us. So I don't disagree with you with your questioning of what's happened in the past and the statement that there's nothing here for Cushing and Hatherley in the next 5 years, because let's face it, it's going to be 8 before we break ground on a new school. So we can't continue to ignore the existing and let it go even further into degradation, right? So we've got to put some sort of a plan in place between now and 8 years from now. This feasibility study, it's not like the Habib, it's not, you know, it's a requirement of the MSBA to actually come up with a design for us to consider and go forward with. It's going to be much more targeted. It's not that here's 5 options and you get to choose one that we just went through in 2018. So it's a necessary step in which we as a town need to get to. I agree with you about the 1.1, and I think that's what we're saying is let's look at that investment in the meantime too, right? And let's not ignore that continued investment in the schools to maintain them so the windows can shut, so they have proper ventilation and basic things like that. So I want you just to consider that we're always going to balance these needs in our town. And that's something they have to consider with their timing. Water is a #1 priority for us. It's, like you said, probably a $110 million investment as we look through phase 1, phase 2. And that's a primary resource for us as human beings that we have to provide. So, and that's just something that's going to have to be weighed by the public as to timing and where they want their investment. But I view it that it's, I remember standing on that side of the desk 15 years ago, 20 years ago, screaming at the board on this side of the desk saying, it is up to the voters to decide, put this in front of the public. So I'm going to stand behind my philosophy there and put it in front of the public for them to decide where they want to invest our tax money.
I appreciate that. And for me, it is partly, it's about the timing. I mean, I want a new school, but I just know if we move forward, these other things, one of them is going to get dropped. Either it's going to be resiliency, sewer, or water. You cannot do it all at once. And so that's why, again, I agree I want to put it in front of the voters, but also they elected us to say no, because there aren't big advocates for sewer. There's not like who's for, yeah, I mean, for.
No, don't even get down that road.
No, not for North Scituate. I'm talking
You're not
different
any
I and other. But that's what I mean. It's going to keep going down the road. I mean, that's the perfect point that North Scituate, it's taken so long. Or harbor resiliency. Who's excited for the $80 million on the harbor resiliency plan? Let's vote for that. So that's my.
And that hasn't been quantified, really. It's the consultant's plan. We haven't bid it out, right? So we
Right,
don't
but
know
that's
that
an estimate. But that's.
Well,
But I'm not going to change mine.
I'd like to say 2 things. One is that the library. We were doing a renovation of the library, and by the time it was done, it was a brand-new library. So you never know what you're going to run into when you're into an old building. And I feel as though both of those schools are same vintage. I think it's remarkable that we've managed to keep, and in fact, we did invest in Wampatuck all along. And the fact is, it's a similar design, but it's in much better shape, which is why I don't think you put into, you know, the feasibility or the MSBA application that you were thinking about Wampatuck. I'm not sure of that. But point being that we just don't know what we're going to run into, and so I think the library is a very recent example of that. And furthermore, I would like to implore the school committee to get out there and educate the public, because town meeting is coming up, and this is on the warrant. And no matter what we say as a board, they're going to vote. And if they don't come out in the right numbers, it could fail, which will put us back considerably. And maybe we're going to be back in the situation where Andrew's right. If it fails at town meeting, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how do we deal with these two buildings. And the third thing I'd like to say is the whole issue of redistricting. I was in Hatherley School 2 years ago, and I know things change over the course of a year or two, but I was in classrooms that were literally a special ed teacher was sitting there in a huge classroom by herself, and there were no, kids were not out at recess. Kids were in that building. I don't know where they were, but it seems to me as though there needs to be some thought given to redistricting over the next couple of years, because as we all point out, 5 years, maybe we're lucky we get the school. Who knows, 8 years. So that's all
May I just,
I'd like to add to that.
Chairwoman Culligan, I just want to address one of the things you said. The school committee has directed me to start that process of educating the community. And the word is getting out, and we've got some flyers going out, and I think it'll come through the town. However, you send your flyers out on October 14th. I did it on my cable show, our cable show on Monday mornings. I'm a guest on. So we're trying to get the word out. October 14th is the first one. I'll be doing an afternoon and an evening question and answer. No, but also, you know, I don't disagree with a lot of what Mr. Goodrich says. I think it's a tough decision. And so I want to hear those concerns from the community. Share, you know, a lot of the times people, when they go out and vote, biggest piece for us is to educate them and make sure that they're educated voters on all these. Their questions get answered, and if I don't have the answer, we'll find it out. So yes, we will start that. It's great advice, and there'll be many of those. But before this October 26th vote, you know, that is important that we had that opportunity. And then I'll open up, you know, obviously for Q&A. Anyone can reach out to me on any questions on this.
Are you doing some sessions at the senior center?
I am.
Okay. Do you want to tell us
One and 6. 1 in the afternoon and 6 p.m.
On which day?
14th of October.
14th.
Yeah. And we'll have some information there. And again, you know, just get this information out. As far as the timing, I know it's not great, but as you know, we're bound. When the MSBA accepted us, the clock starts. So, you know, it'd be great if we could adjust this. We just can't. So I think that's, you know, that's where we're at.
We have the same situation with the library.
Yeah.
You got to the point, you take the grant, you don't take the grant.
Exactly.
You don't take it,
Right.
you're out.
It's out of your hands, yep.
On to the next,
Right.
so.
Yep.
Yeah. Tony?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll add is, you know, you both bring up very good points. You know, the $1 million is kind of an investment for a $40 million return. Bringing out the votes doesn't matter at this meeting. You'll get the 150 people you need. It's the people that aren't going to show, that are going to show up at the ballots when you have to get an override passed, and are going to decide it. So you really have to build a case for more than just the kids in the school and their parents to come and vote for this. But this report will also tell us whether it's build or fix. So I think, you know, if it's a fix, if it's possible to fix, then we'll find that out as well and go down the course that you're pointing for. But it's $1 million that isn't going into property that we're talking about that could fix windows. It's a difficult. We've talked every time I'm looking at John out here because we did this for years and years together. Every time we have a big ticket item like this, we have to look at the big picture, and it's tough. And we talk about this every time. So. It's just very, very hard to look $45 million in the face and not take it for repair, like you even said, you're gonna have to make in 10 years anyways. I mean, we have been talking about repairs in these buildings for a decade now, so this isn't a new event. Your point is though, why didn't we fix the windows in the 10 years that it occurred? So I get that as well.
The point is that the repairs outlined in the last study were 26 million. So if we did all of them, it's still less than the 40.
That was yesterday's money.
2 years ago. So add 30. So I did want to say, I do want to thank you for, I know these are tough, and you're answering for issues that definitely precede you. So I do recognize that, and having the foresight to go with understanding having the maintenance budget, I think, can go a long way to ease some concerns for some parents. But I know they're difficult conversations, so thank you for.
Thank you.
Ms. Canfield?
Yeah, I'll give the clip notes because I know we've got a lot more to talk about, and we'll have a I assume when we vote, we can add. But I just want to, one thing that we haven't really talked about is that we got to this point because of the work done in the previous study clearly demonstrated that the buildings that we have now are both physically and educationally obsolete. And so you're right, we could put $26 million and make the structure sound, but it still won't address those two very well vetted problems with our schools. And I don't think that serves our community as well as it could. The other thing is if this fails at town meeting and we don't spend this money, every dollar that whatever we come up with is going to be 100% borne by the community. So if it's $26 million or 30 or whatever it is to just make the structures not physically obsolete, we haven't even begun to address the educational obsolescence. So I think that number would be higher, and that would be 100% on our town. So you're right, and the last thing I wanted to say is, that's our responsibility as the board of this town is to work with Chris and his committee and Nancy and the town administrator to look at balancing all of these large capital. I think, Chris, you said it perfectly, that you can't not do any of these other things just because one is the most important, because then you're just whack-a-moling problems. So I really think we have to look at it in a big picture. We have to make the case to the community that if we support this, here's why, knowing what else is happening. But I think this particular juncture has been extremely well vetted to get us to this point. And I will support taking that next step and see where it leads us. But we need to do that, otherwise we are at square one, and that's not serving the community. That was my clip notes.
We appreciate her clip notes because Karen.
Well,
she says a lot, so it's always worthwhile listening to. So.
May I just make one more comment?
Of course.
Before we change the charter, because I know Karen has been working on changing the charter, I think it's important that the school committee understands that you have a voting position on the capital planning committee, and you have had that for years. And I would venture to guess, if I look at the attendance record of the capital planning committees, that there is not consistently, because when I was the liaison, there was never a school committee member there. So if capital investments are important to you as a system, they need to be at those meetings with Chris. And I'm sorry, I know that sounds harsh, but I've witnessed it myself as a liaison, and I'm sure Chris can attest to it as well. But that's your opportunity to have your representation and your voice heard and a vote. You're not a liaison, you're a voting member. So I know you're new to the town with the charters, a lot of things to get, but I think that's an important piece that you could take back to your committee.
Sure.
Any final comments? Anyone in the audience would like to chime in? No? Yes.
Hi.
You are? I know who you are, but you have to tell me for the record.
Long, James Way. I know Andrew mentioned the master plan, and I was part of that committee, and it did come up, the schools briefly in the beginning of discussing what the master plan should address, but because this process had already started, it wasn't really put in high importance because there were other issues that the town in those community forums determined what were higher priorities to them. I did look at the previous master plan, and I didn't see any information there on addressing the old gate school. So, and that was, I think, 2004. So just because it's not in the master plan doesn't necessarily mean that it has, it's not important.
All right.
True, but Andrew brings up, it's a big ticket item that's with a lot of other big ticket items that are coming down the road, and it's gotta be, You know, people have to make decisions at some point. You just
Well,
can't.
they came through for the new gates and the public safety complex. Those are two votes, two big projects at the same time. So it can be.
It can, it can.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in. We
Thank you for having us.
appreciate
We appreciate it.
Thank you for waiting.
Thank you for moving us up, we appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't hear you.
Voting on this now, or you're voting on it?
We can vote on it now, right?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Yes. Or, you know what, let's get to the next item.
That's what the Globe said.
You know what, I'm
Yeah, she
looking
did, it was
at
pretty cool.
a public hearing, 9:15, almost at
You don't have
9:15.
to worry about that. It wasn't advertised in the paper, it's what it was on, I presented it.
So we can just scratch that
Well, you can't
tonight?
scratch it tonight.
But we can be late.
We could be late. Okay, all right. So, Mr. Danahy and Mr. Rankin, I believe? Thank you for your patience.
That's all right.
And a lot going on, as you can tell.
Interesting conversation.
You've heard it all before, John. Mr. Danahy, on behalf of his client, Mr. Rankin, sent the CPC a letter and also sent the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board, a letter. And it was discussing a proposal to develop the Border Street property. I thought it only fair that you come in to let the public know that as much as there's a lot of talk about the importance of preserving Border Street, and I'm not here to speak against open space, I will never do that, but there is an alternative on the table, and I think it only fair that the citizens of Scituate know what that is. So that's why you're here tonight.
Thank you.
So, would you like to tell us?
Sure. Well, good evening, Madam Chair, Select Board members, and Ms. Devlin. My name's John Danahy. For those who don't know, I'm actually an attorney here in town, and I represent Jerry Rankin, who is actually to my left. He is the individual, or actually the manager of the entity known as Border Street LLC, that had actually gone out to purchase the property on Border Street from Lion's Head Trust. After doing an offer, they enter into a purchase and sale agreement. Because the land is what's called Chapter 61A, it's agricultural, in any town, under the statute, every town has the right for first opportunity for refusing to buy it, in essence. First right of refusal is what they call it. So the town has now been given the opportunity to purchase it under a time frame of 120 days. I thought it fair that the board understand what Mr. Rankin was proposing to do, because there have been some proponents who are also looking to try to purchase it for the benefit of the town. So we sent the letter on September 27th, it's a public record, in identifying what he's proposing to do, showing the land and the topography of it. So Mr. Rankin's looking to purchase the property. The property is 18 acres. The purchase price is $2,330,000. $2,350,000.
Yeah.
Got my numbers here wrong, I apologize. Thanks, Jerry. Keep you on your toes on your birthday. Of that purchase, 8 acres, okay, he's proposing to donate back to the town. The remaining 10 acres of the 18, he's proposing to build 6 farm-style houses on the lots. Those lots will be on Border Street. 5 of them will be in the field area if you drive by it. There will be what's called a retreat lot that is set back off the property, or off the road, rather. With respect to the 8 acres that he's looking to donate back to the town, before he donates it back, he has proposed, and he will build a parking lot, correct, that is exactly it, a parking lot on the 8 acres. Now, it's represented about 7.35, but he's going to give you 8 total. Now, the benefit of that is, by building it, he will build it. It's a condition that he will enter into if he's successful in purchasing the property. The town will not have to build it, and it's about 16 parking spaces. Now, some people who are probably watching this saying, well, why would you want to do that? Build a parking lot that you can't utilize. But the reality is, one property over happens to be the Hubble property, which the town owns, and that's about 16 acres. Unfortunately, the Hubble property is not accessible.
This property was purchased back in 2011 by the town through CPC funds, but unfortunately, there's no access to the public other than maybe some of the neighbors who have an ability to go there. There's no parking. So Mr. Rankin is proposing that he will build a parking spot right there on Border Street so that people have an opportunity to go there. Now, the only issue with that is there is a gap between the parking lot and the Hubble property. And so his hope is that he will work with their two property owners. One has mentioned last week during CPC hearing or meeting that they will not give a right of access or easement if the homes are built, but he will if the town purchases it. So we'll be seeking some form of easement or maybe a small purchase, if you will, of a sliver from the other property owner so that the town will have an access from the parking lot to the Hubble property. In addition, the remaining 10 acres, as I said, will be built. We provided you a rendering of like a farmhouse-style colonial, not a McMansion, not the type of things that we've seen in the past 90s and 2000s, something that's going to be unique to the property. We also anticipate that there will be a tax revenue, a minimum of $20,000 per house. So that's going to be a tax benefit of about $120,000 per year. There's also, as a result of purchasing this, it triggers what's called the clawback under Chapter 61A, that the sellers, in this case Lionhead's Trust, will have to pay the town back taxes because it's agricultural, it's going to be converted to residential, so you have to pay those taxes because they've been underpaying for the past few years under agricultural exemption. Now they're going to have to pay back. That's estimated at about $100,000 minimum. In addition, there will be permitting from the building of these 6 houses, approximately $75,000 minimum. So just on those alone, you're going to be looking at about, almost $300,000 in 1 year, right out of the gate. And then annually, every year after, there'll be another $120,000 in tax revenue to the town to pay for different things, just like many other locations, especially like we're talking with infrastructure issues. Now, the proponents are suggesting the town purchase it, the 18 acres. And I think one thing that's important for the public to understand is that while the town is looking to purchase 18 acres, the proponents are offering, I think it's the Gulf Association, Inc., which is a nonprofit that they're suggesting they're going to raise $350,000. As of last Thursday, they mentioned to the CPC they've raised $280,000. So that means the town's going to be responsible for the $2 million minimum. So you're buying 18 acres for $2 million, but the reality is you're not. You're buying 10 acres for $2 million. And I think that's an important fact that everybody should understand. Mr. Rankin's going to give you 8 back. So really what the town's buying is 10 acres for $2 million. That's $200,000 per acre. And I think the public should understand that when they decide if they're going to vote for this at town meeting. Also, at least purchasing this property by the proponents, they are suggesting that they may be able to build a parking lot. They represented 2 weeks ago to the advisory committee that they would. Last week, CPC, they're not sure they can. And I think the town and the people should understand whether or not that actually is going to happen or not. Because if you purchase it for $2 million, there's still added cost for building a parking lot that's going to be handicap accessible, as well as prevailing wage, which you're going to have to pay for. That does not also include, are you going to make trails? Now, it's important to understand from those renderings that have been presented, there are wetland delineation on that. The area that's actually upland happened to be the actual hayfield. And that's what everybody sees, and that's what everybody wants to preserve, which we totally understand. That's approximately 5 acres. The other acre is where the parking lot is. And the remaining area is wetlands. So if you're going to be preserving this, you're preserving a hayfield, which they've represented is going to be, I think, in the summer meeting to you folks, that they want to be able to hay and maybe, sell. So your trails are going to be on the hayfield, if that's what you're looking for. It's not for the woods. And to somebody's credit last week, a gentleman had said, we're not buying this as Border Street woods. We're buying it for Border Street fields, for the field. And if that's what the public wants, so be it. But at least the facts are out there. You're buying 5 acres of field. I think it's also important to understand that you know, when you're spending $200,000 per acre, you know, you're going to be depleting 600,000 of your CPC open fields, okay, your open space. They're also going to the general fund in CPC, which is going to cover the remaining, which is approximately 1.6, actually, no, 1.4, give or take. And, you know, those are things that are not going to be able to use for your recreational fields. And I also think it's important that you're setting a bar up very high for all future and even present purchases. You know, my understanding is the Mordecai Lincoln property that the town went last year to purchase for, I guess under CPC, of $900,000. There is no purchase and sale agreement right now with those parties. And if that's the case, I suspect that the sellers are going to take a look at this price of $2.3 million and say, maybe our property that is actually on the Gulf, that has presence, might be a little more expensive than $900,000. You know, I think the other thing that I want to make sure that everybody understands is that you're also setting the bar for Chapter 61A. This is Chapter 61A. There's going to be this suggestion that all the other property that's been purchased in the past under CPC funds for open space was CPC funds. It wasn't Chapter 61A. We did the appraisal. Most of the property came for $20,000, give or take, except for Mordecai Lincoln, as well as First Cliff, the Sunset property. Different valuations, they went through their appraisal. And if that's the case, you still have other Chapter 61A property in town. You need only go down Country Way, and you got the Steverman's property, which directly abuts our water supply, which is significant. You also have RC Farms, which is on 123, heading out of town, as well as some other locations. If that's the case, then you're going to be seeing those potential properties sold at a premium. And that's the example that, you know, the bar that's being set for future purchases. So I think it's important, and the reason why we sent the letter was so that you folks on the board would understand it, the public could at least understand it, and have a transparent, if you will, transparency with the facts. You know, Mr. Rankin is a contractor, he's been building homes in Hingham, lives in Hingham, wants to move to Scituate, he's going to. He's not a developer. There was somebody who actually said, I know developers, I've seen them all the time, a developer says one thing, doesn't do it. I commit tonight, I will put it in writing, I'll send it to town council. These conditions that we're talking about, if successful, if the vote does not go forward, and that Mr. Rankin purchases it, that these conditions that I've told you tonight, that I put in the letter, are part of a binding agreement that he will follow through with. And I also want to state here that he's also prepared to donate $50,000 on top of building a parking lot to access the Hubble property for the building of a baseball field. I understand that there are issues with respect to JV field or Little League field. He's prepared to even do that. I dare say, in my experience in town, I haven't seen somebody prepared to do that as part of their opportunity to try to purchase property. And last thing I did put in my letter, and I do feel it's important that for transparency's sake, is that, you know, that this property, if it's bought by the town, is bought by the town people, by its residents. There is a push by other organizations, and certainly the Gulf Association, saying that, you know, they want to purchase it for the town, and that's great. They're donating potentially $280,000, maybe up to $350,000. But I think we need to know who are the people who are behind it. And I know that the proponent is Mr. McGoldrick, and I know he's here this evening. He's been here to the different meetings, but he is a Cohasset resident. He's a president of Black Rock Golf. He's also a partner in the Cohasset Hospitality that is actually redeveloping the hotel on Cohasset waterfront. He is a developer. Okay, he lives on Border Street at 107 Border Street. Nothing wrong with that. The Gulf Associate Inc., which is the Gulf Association, its principal office is at 107 Border Street. So I think it's important that, you know, we have a delineation of who's behind all this. There are people here, former Maxwell Trust people, I get it, and other people who've advocated for open space. But there's a danger when we have people outside of our town coming in town suggesting that they utilize town funds to purchase properties. And yeah, I will say that nobody from CPC and Cohasset is donating any money towards this. So I just think that, you know, from our perspective, on behalf of Mr. Rankin, We're here to answer any questions, but I wanted to thank you for the opportunity so that we could at least put forth what we will do and what we'll commit to in honor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Danahy, for coming in. Thank you, Mr. Rankin. Who would like to start with questions? Andrew, got any questions?
No, not yet. I want to hear.
Go ahead, Karen Canfield. She's nodding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Danahy, thank you very much for coming in. It is important for the public to know what is being proposed, because that's what they're going to choose between. I think you have used your considerable skills to lay out a lot of different issues. I must say, I take exception with almost all of that. I want to just note that I was the first one to raise this issue 2 years ago. I'm the one who called the Golf Association and asked them to participate and called the trustees of reservation, hoping to buy that whole property, which was 25 acres, I think. Well, it was more than that. And I've been working for 2 years to have this conversation and bring it before the residents. To imply that an out-of-towner with self-serving interests is behind it is, I think, very disingenuous. There have been over 100, I'm sure Marlon and George can say, at least 150 residents. Some are self-serving, obviously. Some are from Cohasset, the majority of which I think is true, are from Scituate, who are supporting this effort on a private fundraising effort. So that said, I have many concerns about the way this is presented. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter what's proposed to be there, and your proposal is great. I'd like to share this with our planning director who's here. It looks like a lovely development, but really what it comes down to is, does the community want anything developed there? And that's what we're going to end up having to put forward to the community. Regardless of value, you can quantify. I think that it's a little bit funny math the way you presented it, and I would certainly in front of the town be able to articulate exactly why I think that the math doesn't work as you presented it. And we can talk about whether or not, the loss of revenue to the town for this proposal is worth the preservation of this land, and that's a very valid thing to consider. But it's really going to come down to, do the residents of this town think that this particular property, as presented, and the only way we can buy it is fair market, because it's a 61A, it's not comparable to the Mordecai Lincoln or the others, because it's totally different. It's apples and oranges. And it's just going to come down to what the community feels is important. Obviously, I think this is very important because that's why I called these people to help try to find a way to preserve it. So I'm very committed to seeing this go forward. And appreciate you bringing this in. I think it is important for everyone to see it. I don't know if we'll share this online. It is a public document if anyone wants to see it. But that's my clip notes because I'm totally. Do you mind if I give a stand?
And Burbine?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a public document.
You don't have to print up. Do you do mine absolutely?
It's a public document. It should be shared with anybody. And actually, she got it before. And first of all, I'm going to say, it's not fuzzy math or funny math, okay? Second of all, then to those residents, we should know, the town should know who actually is behind the golf. All the people. You say you don't know, you should know. What happens if, I think that's important for people in the town to understand. How many people are from Scituate? If the majority is Scituate, that's great. If it's less than that, I think that's important for people to understand. But we disagree.
It's not the first time.
Tony.
Well, can I address, the one thing I want to address, what you just said there a second ago, which I kind of take offense to, funny math, okay? That's a blatant statement. That's, first of all, it's wrong, okay? The numbers are, I sat down with a member of a board here who is an assessor, okay? And he actually gave me the numbers. It's $140,000 a year in revenue. No, you had your say, okay? You had your say. You had your say, okay? $140,000 a year, okay? That will be generated per year over a 10-year period. That's 1.4 million. I sat here for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, listened to a presentation before about schools in this town, about a study that needs $1.1 million. You have it right here. You have it from this project. You're spending money that this town needs, and you're going to spend that money, and you're telling me it's not wise to do it? It's not to go spend 2.3 or 2 million plus the clawback, plus the revenue that's generated. It's a $3.5 million investment that the town has to make sure that people have to make sure they're aware of. And not only that, the precedence that you're setting with other developers in this town is, let's forget about the town, let's go in here and let's put a 40B in on this land. Let's draw the facts out here. Situate is not in their numbers in the 40B. Okay, they haven't hit their numbers. I could come in here and turn around and propose a 40B for this land. And possibly they asked 2.5 for it. I offered 2,350, and it was put under agreement. Okay. First of all, from my assessment of the thing was, I was on the understanding that was presented to me that the town is not in a position to buy that. Whether that's true or not, but that's the position that was presented to me from real estate and the people that were selling it, from the seller's representation, that the town was not in a position to buy this property. I have sat with John. John is a well-respected person in this town, has sat on that board, okay? Well-respected person, and that's why. And my position with John is that if I can come into this town and build responsibly in this town, okay, that maybe it sets a precedence for future development in this town. Maybe it sets a precedence that people can come in and actually give back. I looked at my own country, which I left 32 years ago, and watched development of 400 houses, 300 houses in different spots, and not a dime was given back to put in a swing set in an area. Not a dime was given back from all these developers. Nothing. That land is an iconic piece of land. I know that. But the perception, and let's get the facts out here, because the perception of that land is Cohasset, not Scituate. Okay, it is Scituate, but the perception is it's not. I've spoken with many people in this town that don't even know Border Street exists because they don't come that direction or drive that direction. I'm not saying everybody, but there is a number of people in this town that don't even know that street exists. Okay? I'm buying it for a reason, to make money. No question, my hand is up on that one. Okay? But there's a way to make money and work with towns. And what I said to John when I came and I met with him to see what he worked with me on the project is that I will turn around and set a precedence that if there is another piece of land in this town that the CPC have an issue with buying, that I could possibly get a leg in and get a jump start on. That's what I'm looking to do. I don't change that opinion. I haven't changed that opinion with John. It's exactly. But I do not understand the amount of money that's going to be wasted on 10 acres of land or 18 acres when the town is going to get 8 acres back. And the trailhead to be put in, that I guarantee you, I could put a bet on with you now that if the town bought it, that trailhead is not put in. Guarantee you. Because I've listened to some of the stories over the last, I'm not from Scituate. I applaud everything that you guys do. My father did this at home for a community at home, and he was the last one to get the thanks. Never got a thanks. And you guys have to make hard decisions every day. I understand that. And the 1.1 million that you talked about spending on this, on the study, there's 2.3 million or 2.4 million there in land that you're going to spend money, and you're going to take that away from the study on the schools. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Sorry if I overheated about it.
You deserve a hearing.
Yep.
You deserve.
Can I just clarify one thing now?
Yes, one thing, please.
One thing, and then I'll have it. I
I apologize, I didn't make myself clear. The value of the development and the money that would be coming into town is absolutely accurate, and I understand that. And that was my point about we're just deciding whether we want to be developed at all. Your proposal, from a development standpoint, is probably the best it could be there.
I don't want to fight with any town. It's not, I don't have the time to get into fights. My position was that I thought the town was not in a position. I met with George about a week or two after I put this into agreement, and I told him exactly what I was doing. I told him I was going to donate 8 acres back. There's a benefit to me donating 8 acres back. Again, my hand is up. There is a benefit. No questions asked.
Right,
But
so what I
there's
was referring to-
there's trails there that can be used. All has to be done is the wall has to be opened up a little further, and a trailhead can be put in. That's what I'm proposing, and 8 acres. I say 8, I'm generalizing, it could be 7.9, I want to make sure that's clear. Okay, it could be 8.5, but 8 acres for generalization, so.
Yeah, so what I was referring to, just to clarify, was the characterization of the cost per acre, taking that out, taking the house out, taking what John was referring to. I think it paints an artificial perception of what the
How?
cost of it.
If you're buying 10 acres, you're spending $2 million, you divide 10 to $2 million, it's 200,000. It's that simple, Karen. If you want to go 18 acres, that's fine, then it goes down to one like 30, but he's giving back 8.
But you get houses. There's a trade-off there. We can talk about this offline, but I was not referring to
No, I understand.
representation of the cost of the town, 100%. It is a true cost. And then that's what I mean. The town will have to make that decision.
Yeah.
Is this development,
I understand the people of this town are going to have, the people of the town will have to, but I think the facts have to be put out there to them correctly. That's all I'm asking. The
Oh, I
facts be
agree.
put out
I
correctly.
100%
That's
agree.
simple.
I will defer to let others have their
Well,
say.
just so no one thinks I'm shutting anyone off, if all the other members of the board would like to chime in, and then we can get back to you. So I'm not trying to control this conversation, all right?
No.
All right.
That's your
well,
job, man.
I didn't mean,
I just want to be clear about that. So Tony, do you want to go, or?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Well, first of all, both of you have good points. Mr. Danny, I appreciate you coming in and giving the side of the builder in town, and Karen has a great point. It's going to come before the town, They're going to decide whether they want to spend the money for the property, but you have to lay out the true picture of both sides of what you're getting. We have found that this town generally goes towards open space. But we also know that there is self-interest in a lot of people that are involved in the property, at any property. I'm not a huge proponent in town chasing land to buy, because there's going to be another piece of property in 6 months that someone's going to want, that there's going to be neighbors that aren't going to want a development there. And there's going to be one 2 months, 2 years after that. It's just going to continue to happen. This is a nice piece of property, and your building or development, whatever you call it, is nice. I mean, it's not a 40B with 700 apartments that is really, not fitting in that neighborhood well. We could debate all of this stuff all night long, but it really doesn't matter. It's going to come before the town, and the town's going to decide whether they want to spend $2 million of CPC money, which is really, taxpayers don't really see that as tax dollars, it is tax dollars, or to develop this piece of land. And there's only so much land in Scituate. I mean, that's the part that is going to go against this development. Many people will pay anything they want for the land because there's not enough of it. So, I don't know, I like your development. I like the fact that the people that are wanting to buy it are putting up money for it and participating in it. I think, I don't like the threat of a 40B, that you could come and do that. I didn't think that was appropriate, but I understand the heat of the moment. Ultimately, it's going to go before the town, and whoever goes and votes is going to be which way it goes. And that's all I get to say.
Okay, thank you. Maura?
I would just say I appreciate the information. I think it's important to present it to the public, both sides. So I do appreciate you bringing it forward. as Tony said, you know, at town meeting floor is going to decide on this, right? I am concerned about paying this large amount, because I do think it does set a precedent for us as a board and as a town. That certainly will be a discussion, right, that comes forward on town floor. That's one of my biggest concerns is how much we're paying per acre for this in comparison to what we have done in the past. So that's where I stand right now today at 9:41 p.m.
I mean, where I stand is, let's say the town didn't have the option to buy, and a developer said, hey, here's 8 free acres, we'd be jumping for joy. And it's the $2 million, right, it's gonna have to come in front of the voters to see if they want that, but, I mean, that $2 million could be used for other areas and other needs that CPC can do, and I'm nervous that, you know, to control development is, I don't know if that's CPC's best avenue. That's really the lane they need to be in. I think that's what a land bank and other things do. So no, I'm very concerned about the precedent they can send and whether that's the best value for the taxpayers' dollars.
Well, if I could just chime in, I actually approached the chair of the CPC in Cohasset, and via email, he basically told me to get lost. He said he didn't want to get dragged into it. I agree with you. In fact, Mrs. Bleaky let me put some yard signs up in front of her property when I was running for election, and I kept saying to Sean Harris, who did the deal for me, I'm like, are you sure that's Scituate? Is that really Scituate? And I've lived here since 1965. So I
That's the year I was born. Today.
Don't tell me that. Oh my gosh.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Today? Happy birthday. The other thing I would like to just point out is that a few years ago, CPC allocated $1.9 million to build Lawson Green. The Affordable Housing Trust contributed another $400,000. In my math, that's $2.5 million that the town invested through CPC and through the Housing Trust, which was funded by CPC, to invest in that property. And today we have 30 affordable housing units for people over 62. And so I think it's fair to point out that there are other legitimate reasons to use CPC funds. And this is going to deplete CPC. I'm also concerned about the precedent that is sending. I think this whole board has expressed concerns about the price. I think you'd be foolish not to say it's a lot of money. So I agree. I think this is going to go before town meeting, as it should. And we understand that CPC did vote in favor of it. So they've weighed in, and we'll have to weigh in, but what it really matters is if it gets to town meeting, which we still have to take a vote as to whether or not to exercise our right of first refusal, the negatives and positives in there. So that's where I am on this. Anyone else?
So we're just voting to whether or not to support it.
Yes.
For town meeting, but
And
our
our
right of
usual-
first refusal expires after town meeting.
But we're going to have to vote it before.
No, we're absolutely, well,
Well,
that's
no, we
something that
can't.
we can discuss, but
We can.
we could.
How are we going to buy it if we don't have CPC support?
We do have CPC support.
No, but if the town votes it, if town meeting votes it down.
Right, if we
Correct.
vote before town meeting, we won't have the funds. A vote on the right of first refusal.
Let me understand this. My understanding of it is that if we vote to exercise our right of first refusal, it goes to town meeting.
No.
Yeah.
No, so the way that it works is,
That's why the town meeting is the 20th in Irvine, 10 Pencrest Road.
Thank you.
That's why town meeting was October 26th, before the 120 days
gets up.
ran out. So this will go before town meeting. If it fails at town meeting, then the board will exercise or not exercise your right of first refusal. It comes after. not before.
I'm not sure that's correct.
I think that's correct.
You're right. I think,
Oh, see, I think
I
that's
think
right.
you voted to exercise it, but you have 120 days to close it.
We didn't vote on
Right. Whatever.
it.
It's-
Can we just clarify that with Jim?
We'll clarify. I've
All you're
had
voting tonight is whether
the
you support
CPC,
this
the
on
CPC
the warrant
article.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
We will iron out when we do the vote on right of first refusal. But I've had a number of conversations with Jim. Anyway, so we'll figure that out. Any questions from the audience?
It's all been said.
Thank you, Ann.
It's all been said.
Okay. Yes, sir.
George McGoldrick, 107 Border Street, Classic. So I do have a self-interest in this project. I swim in the Gulf River, and an outgoing tide water comes from North Scituate. And everyone in this room, and everyone in our part of Cohasset is very concerned about the health of the river. I've been involved in the Gulf Association for the last 8 years since we moved there. I'm the treasurer of the Gulf Association, which is why that's my address. We file my annual reports. I try to use the PO box that we use in Scituate, but you have to use a home address, so that's why it says 107 Border Street, Classic. Gulf Association is made up of 50 to 70 people, fluctuates all the time. Probably half and half Cohasset and Scituate. It's not just people who live on the river, it's people who live all over town. There's been 265 people that have donated between $10 and $30,000 over the last 6 weeks. We have over $325,000. We're within sights of our goal of $350,000, which is 15% of the purchase price. I find it hard to understand people saying that this will set a precedent, because actually the purchase price was set by Mr. Rankin. When he put the offer in front of the Blakey family, he set the price. We didn't set the price. The town didn't set the price, Mr. Rankin. And then for him to argue that it's too much money, I don't follow that logic. The fact of the matter is that there is significant interest for this, for people that want to look at it when they drive by, for people that want to walk the trails, that we can connect to Hubble. With the abutters that live on Border Street have offered to give easements to the town so that we can connect the 18 acres to the 40 acres. And we've walked it 2 weeks ago. It's very doable. And those abutters have stated at the last meeting that they would not grant that easement if there were houses on it, because it wouldn't make any sense for them to create value for their property by having all this open space. It's important from an environmental standpoint because those 6 houses are on septic. And there's a stream that runs down gradient of the property that flows directly into the Gulf River. And so now you're adding 6 more septic systems to the Gulf River. And that's my self-interest. You asked earlier what it is, that's my self-interest. It's the septic issues. People want it because they want to see the wildlife. People want it because they want the trails. I want to keep the river as clean as possible.
And Mr. McGoldrick, I will editorialize by saying the town of Scituate has been trying like heck to get the town of Cohasset to agree to sewer North Scituate, including we have agreed if for sewering, we would go down Border Street. We don't, we are getting no, we've been put off and put off and put off and put off. And if your real concern is the health of the Gulf River, we need some real muscle to help us with Cohasset on this thing. It has gone on for far too long. And it's not your fault. But you bring up the health of the Gulf River, you're also bringing up the health of Bassing Beach and everything down there. So.
I'll take that as our next mission after this.
Awesome.
Just 2 quick comments, if I could, Karen.
Yes.
One, you are in a butter, so they're, very close to being a butter, so there is an interest, as well as your neighbors, right, I assume. But the other thing about the price is, the only reason CPC can pay this amount of money is because it's a Section 61. And that's what throws off. If this was just a piece of land, then CPC wouldn't be able to pay that amount of money. So that's, again, this is all just educational stuff. It's going to come before the town and whoever happens to go to that meeting, but I think it's very important that all these things are pointed out to everybody so that they can make an informed decision. And there's good and there's bad. There's, like I said, some people will pay anything per acre for open space. There's not right or wrong answer, it's just how people feel. So I'd like to get all the information out there and let people look at it and then make their decision based on what they think.
I live a half mile away, so I don't think that's in a butter. I definitely am interested in preserving it. And yes, the abutters have, almost every abutter has put some money in, but there are 265 other.
I am very impressed. I am very impressed by the amount of people that are doing it. People that I see at meetings that don't even live in the neighborhood, so who like the field. So that is a very impressive number. I will give you that.
Do you have a sense of how many are Scituate residents, Mr. Dahning's point? Can you tell?
We haven't looked exactly at it, but I gotta say close to 80 to 90%.
89 are Scituate?
80 to 90% of the 265 are Scituate residents.
Closer to 90.
Those are the donors,
Donors.
not the members. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for coming in, the
folks.
proponents for
Appreciate
the open space.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Like
it
I
very
said,
much.
I'm not saying I'm against open space, but
No, yeah, as you shouldn't.
what's the cost?
Go get some cake.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Red Sox are ahead 3-0. There you go. Top of the
3-0,
fifth.
what's the inning?
Well,
Top of
thank
the
God,
fifth.
I was dying.
Bottom of the fifth, there you go.
Good, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good night.
Appreciate it.
All right, next on our agenda is the public hearing vote.
Happy birthday.
Some way to spend a birthday, right? Do we want to do the Widow's Walk? Sure. Can we?
Yep.
Public hearing, discuss, vote, Widow's Walk all alcohol license, change of manager and alteration of premise. Lorraine Devon, Executive Assistant to the Select Board. You're here on behalf of the,
I'm representing the liquor license for Widow's Walk.
okay,
Currently, as you know, there's a renovation going on at Widow's Walk. It's coming to renewal time for the licenses. At the same time, Mary's, who was the last liquor license manager there, North River Grill is no longer a manager there. So we want to bring the records up to date for the liquor license renewal for 2022 and appoint Ian Kelly as the liquor manager in the interim until we have an agreement with the new licensee for the restaurant so that we can continue to keep our liquor license. In addition, the alteration of premise will need to be done to accommodate the new renovated building. We'd like to do that at the same time and to include the entire 18-hole golf course for our beverage cart ongoing, which has never been included in our liquor license in the past.
well, we don't want to be in violation, right?
Trying to keep everything
Kosher, yes.
So we thought, since we are coming up to renewal, let's do the application to the ABCC, and that's what's before you this evening.
Questions from the board?
Point of order, if it wasn't in the paper, are we allowed to do?
Yes, an alteration of premise and change of managers is not required to be published in the newspaper.
I knew you would know.
All right. I knew that.
I felt you were prepared for that question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Will Ian be required to be tip certified? I mean, I know there's nothing open right now, but I just want to make sure.
Yes, we've
You know,
asked
I thought
him
the same thing.
to be tip certified, and he also, has submitted everything he needs to submit for the ABCC application.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
It's just stretching, sorry.
Nope.
Nope.
Seems like what we have to do.
All right.
Would you like a motion?
Please.
Move that the select board approve a change of manager for Widow's Walk to Ian Kelly.
Second. Wow.
Second by Ms. Canfield, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries.
And move that the Select Board further approve the alteration of premises for Widows Walk to include the renovations in the restaurant, bar patio, and the extension to the 18-hole golf course and driving range via beverage cart services.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vignani. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, motion carries. Next on our agenda is update Veterans Day events. I will just briefly read the email that Lorraine received from Joe Kelly. At 11 a.m., the Scituate American Legion will perform a flag-raising ceremony along with a rifle salute. There will also be a luncheon served at the Senior Center. A live veteran-based band performing at the Senior Center. Members of the Scituate Food Pantry will also provide their second annual salute to veterans with special gifts. They're also doing a December 7th Pearl Harbor Day event. The Veterans Advisory Council is sponsoring a veterans breakfast at the Senior Center, holiday outreach to veterans. I think we'll probably have more details at some point in terms of place.
We're in the planning stages now.
Yeah.
A little later on tonight before you will be the liquor license for the veterans luncheon at the Senior Center.
Okay.
Where will
Liquor
the-
at the Senior Center?
Where will the rifle salute be, Lorraine?
That's.
Is it going to be on the
It doesn't
common
say.
or?
Yeah, it doesn't say yet.
Yeah.
They haven't decided where.
Okay, yeah.
That's why I said, I think details to follow.
Used to be at the GAR hall, so, okay.
We just wanted to give an update.
Yeah, it's coming.
Great, thanks.
60 years Pearl Harbor this year, is that right?
Is it?
You're asking me to do the math?
60?
70.
70.
80. 80.
So which is it?
41.
40, 60, 80, right? Sorry.
So well informed. All right.
No, it's 41, right? Yeah, so 80.
Yeah, Sean was in 8th grade.
Poor Sean. He's not here, so he
Unfortunately,
gets
he doesn't
picked on.
watch anymore.
He's
Okay.
watching.
So, our next item, we already covered Article 4 feasibility study.
Well, we didn't, we need to vote it. We need to
Well,
vote it.
I said we covered it. I didn't say we voted it.
Okay.
Okay, all right. They're so quick here. Well, since we did that slightly out of order, do we want to vote that now, or do we want to go through the other Article 6?
Move to support Article 4.
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
1.
Motion carries 4-1. Article 6, Community Preservation. We did get a memo from Dan with a description of all the articles.
Yes.
It came in a separate, I thought I had it.
It's actually in the meeting, it's in the meeting backup. It's on page 85.
Backup because
Yeah.
there are two things that said TBD that Dan clarified today.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I see. So, I personally think we should take this one project by one project.
Also, I provided you a list of warrant articles that I printed out for you, and they're all listed on there as well. if you want to
Okay.
look at them on paper.
Yes.
Maybe we could do all but 13. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Let me, maybe I could take a second and clarify 12 for the 90-foot baseball field. They moved to support $75,000 for design and, is it design and not anything more than design?
Community engagement, bidding.
Right, so
Yeah.
bidding community, right.
Get it ready.
Right.
It's called design on the
Okay.
warrant.
Designs, studies, how we
Right. And at some future meeting, we'll have to discuss how we want to allocate the Toll Brothers money.
Okay.
Was the location determined?
No, that's what the public.
That's
part of the study.
Really?
So we'll go out to the public and have
That's interesting.
3 or 4 meetings and get feedback, even though we already decided that space.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, of course.
Not to jump all around, but didn't we do that, wasn't that in the study
Yeah, it was.
that we already did?
For all the athletic fields, you mean, Karen,
Yeah,
years ago?
sorry, when we did the
Yep.
whole athletic, that big monster thing, wasn't this discussion in that study?
Well, it was to go behind
Gates,
Gates School.
old Gates.
But since then, things have changed, and so CPC felt they should have a little more discussion, come up with a solid in the neighborhood. You know, have some meetings. That's part of the money they asked for last night.
If I may, Darren Campbell, 57 Acorn Street.
Thank you.
The vote that was taken by your board in 2019, in November, was taken prior to the installation of the light post for the parking lot for the senior center, which changed the feasibility of putting the field as was understood by you people when you voted. Therefore, it seems appropriate to consider, now that we have to change the orientation, change the dimensions, consider, you know, different abutting
Right.
property
In the
surfaces.
senior center.
Exactly, and so, yes, you did vote to say the recreation site should be the site to go forward on, but of course, I think you reserve the right to change your minds if we come up with reasons why that might be appropriate. But
Well,
we just don't want to, again,
yeah.
there were different circumstances when you voted on it initially.
Well, and I suppose it's better to start slow and not wind up with a lot of objections after the fact.
Exactly.
And, you know, I for one would like to know, why is that light post there? And could that light post be somewhere else? I mean, it just seems ridiculous.
I would love to know the same.
So, but I know I know that there are other issues. So, at any rate, so that's 75. So on the articles we have in front of us that Lorraine gave us,
It's number 12.
right. So my question is, we've got in front of us to vote Article 6. I think we should take them one at a time, project by project, if that's all right.
That's fine.
So, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move to,
Tony made the motion on the ball field for 75.
Okay.
oh, you did?
Well, I'll make a motion for Articles 7 through 12.
7 through 12.
So moved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move,
To support, sorry.
seconded by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that leaves us with land acquisition, Eastfield, Border Street. Anyone want to make a motion?
Well, we can discuss amongst ourselves, too. It's a tough one.
Amongst yourselves?
It's almost make a motion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously will make a motion to support the acquisition of this field on Border Street.
Motion made by Ms. Canfield. Second? No second.
I'll second.
I'm thinking.
All right, well.
I'll second it for a vote.
You have to put up your hand when you're finished thinking, so I don't, rush
Right, well,
everyone along.
Tony seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Vignani.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion not to support Article 13.
Second. Can I second? Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
So motion carries to not support the article,
How did you vote, Karen?
not to support. I seconded it,
Okay.
not to support.
I just, it's a lot of money.
If we can get 30
It's,
housing units for that kind of investment.
there's no right answer here.
I know, but
I mean, I love it. Trust me, I love it. I don't know.
I get it, but
Okay.
anyway, all right. So, next. Do we have to vote all of these articles, or we voted some of them already? Unpaid bills?
No, you already did all that.
Okay.
What's on the,
You only have Article 4 and Article 6. Then we have the consent agenda, and then sign the articles for special town meeting.
Okay, so Article 4,
So you already completed Article 6,
yes,
so you vote now on Article 4.
She supports.
right. So Article 4 is the feasibility study and schematic design for Hadley Elementary School, the $1.1 million. Capital planning recommended at 3-0. Would someone like to make a motion?
Didn't we just do that?
Yeah, we just did that one.
No, we talked about it.
Number 4?
Yes.
Tony just made a motion and we voted on it.
Article 4. You voted Article 6.
No, we did
No.
4 right
We did
before.
4 prior
We did 4
to.
prior
I'll
to
do it
it.
again.
It was 4 to 1.
Karen, we did.
It was 4 to 1.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I have it.
All right,
okay.
I already typed it.
I guess I didn't
I'm sorry.
hear it.
It's 10:10, it's my bedtime.
I'm like,
All right, I'm sorry, I apologize. My mistake.
My mistake as well.
On to the next.
Yes.
Anything else?
Consent agenda.
Move to accept the consent, is there words I'm supposed to say?
oh yeah, I want to.
No, I didn't.
So the consent agenda is just 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
Do I hear a second?
Just take a look.
Let me just
Yeah.
want to make sure there's nothing in here.
Page 88.
I move that I vote, motion, I move that the town, no, that is the
That's
actual.
what we say in the thing, never mind. Except, yeah, you're right.
Accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by
Ms.
Ms.
I thirded it.
They're trying to confuse me. Ms. Canfield seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye, sorry. Aye.
5-0. And you've still made up your mind?
I said aye.
Everybody's getting cranky, everybody.
Okay, the last
Motion
thing we have
carries.
to do for town meeting is to look at the list of articles to see which one of you will be representing which topic. I mean, you can decide tonight or you can decide in the next meeting, whatever.
I personally rather do it at our next meeting, but
That's fine, you're the chair. You're the chair.
We can put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
all right.
Okay?
Give people time to think about what you'd like to represent.
Yeah, you have the list, you have the
Yeah.
final votes of all the committees.
I'll do 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8.
There you go.
The consent list.
Oh, all right. You're still sharp at this hour of the night.
Okay, so we're gonna do this at the next meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
At some meeting tonight or at the next meeting, I need the select board to sign off on the funding mechanism for Article 4.
Yes, that, I actually wrote that down. Yes, can you explain how you're going to pay for that?
How are you going to pay for this, Nancy?
We have so much confidence.
I wrote it right
Yes,
here.
so happy to
Nancy
have a
funding?
plan.
Here's her plan.
I have no balance because I've
Oh
been
my
sitting
gosh,
for
you
so
found
long.
quarters in the couch.
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
500 grand from free cash?
Did you not hear that I said that
That could go to
2
Oprah.
hours ago?
Exactly. I was waiting for that word. I was like, to go to elementary school.
That will also, because of your executive session, that almost threw a wrench in the works depending on how that came out, because that was the second funding source.
How about the capital money they haven't spent yet?
The capital money they haven't spent yet, the ones that we can have are on there. So I already reviewed that list with Dr. Dutch, and there are a couple of leftovers that we can have from their capital plan. The other things they're actually spending, as they spoke
How
about.
about their surplus that they announced last night?
That was surplus property. It wasn't
Right, that they
surplus
sell.
budget that they just sell,
To
right?
the bus and some other stuff they're
Yeah,
gonna
I don't know
sell.
how much that's gonna
If
generate.
they sell surplus property, it will not go back to them, it'll just close out of free cash, it's a general receipt.
Oh, okay.
So they can't keep it.
Yeah, well, it goes back into free cash, which
Right,
that's
which
where we're
goes
pulling,
back out to
pulling
them.
the money out.
I can't tell you how many times I've sold the books that are over in Old Gates, and I will continue to sell the books that are over in Old Gates because they keep selling. I mean, there's a room full of just leftover textbooks that have been decommissioned.
From the old gates?
No, they come from all the schools, and
Oh.
they come into this one room in Old Gates, and we
And
keep
people
selling
are
them at
still
auction,
buying.
and people keep buying them.
Wow.
I mean, you are using the kindergarten money that was allocated,
Well, that's-
correct?
Can you explain the first 3?
Sure, so The 103,000 was at the special town meeting last spring for COVID-19 expenses, because we weren't sure how much, if we were gonna have any more. We were able to make do with what we had in the budgets and what we got from the CARES Act, so we never needed it, we shouldn't need these funds. The second one, which is the Cudworth Cemetery.
Excuse me, can I ask a question about that? Is that COVID funds from the town side, or
Yes,
COVID? Okay.
it was out of free cash.
Okay, thank you.
The Cudworth Cemetery, this is leftover funds from the project. I have checked with all the different departments responsible for this.
So that's actually more than free cash.
This is beyond what is needed for that settlement that was discussed today. Those funds are already set aside for this.
So we talked about, meaning me and Kevin, about adding some additional fencing around there. Can that
They
come?
released the funds. I mean, you can not take all of it, 85,000, I can move like 5,000 there.
Adding a fence where, Tone, around the cemetery?
Yeah, particularly where we cleaned up that fence by the baseball field and it comes in over
On
there.
that backside,
and kinda
yep.
clean up the frontage so nobody falls off that hill onto our esteemed selectman. So,
I can just get with Kevin what he thinks an estimate is. And
yeah,
leave
that would be
with
great
him.
if we could clean up that. There was a few things that we wanted to clean up there, so.
Just write that in words I can actually read. And then the hybrid kindergarten, that 450,000 was at the last fall special town meeting. It was for the 2020 to 2021 school year for the hybrid kindergarten, if we didn't get reimbursement through the CARES Act, and we did get reimbursement through the CARES Act. So it was never used. It did come from stabilization, so you could choose not to use this and later on go it back into stabilization. For me, it just seemed it was an available revenue source. It was already out of stabilization for a school purpose. This was a school purpose. Whatever comes from free cash or stabilization. The stabilization fund has over $5 million in it, and it will have even more after we set the tax rate, because our new growth is going to be higher than we expected.
Stabilization does, Nance? Or free, okay.
Stabilization currently has $5,341,000 in it.
So for the 1.1 million, we're literally taking half from stabilization and half from free cash. The rest of this adds up to not much at all.
Yep.
And there's some other smaller articles, but I didn't want to make it,
You're just cleaning up a mess with this, is what you're doing.
well, I'm cleaning up articles.
$53?
Don't you remember the public safety complex when we?
That'll pay for one copy of the entire report.
This is what I would recommend.
How do we fund the last ones?
It was from available funds, free cash with Gates, the 750,000.
Who's the 1.1 estimate from? Is that from?
That was the school department working with the MSBA.
Okay.
And I think they based it on what they paid for the Gates thing, but then added more to it, as I recall.
Yeah, they discussed it at the capital planning committee.
Yeah.
And if it does proceed forward and they do get MSBA, we will get 40% of this back, or be able to use it towards the project and need that much less for whatever project comes out of this.
So I guess in my opinion, the only item that I have discussion is the 450 that came out of stabilization, not out of free cash. So do we ever intend to put that back into stabilization, or you're just saying never put it back and keep stabilization at the 5 million?
Stabilization is going to get another sizable infusion,
What's sizable?
probably 400,000 to 500,000 from the Article 11 that was voted in April, because the new growth was just submitted. It was part of the financial forecast discussion earlier this evening. New growth has been submitted at 1.6 million. It was, so it's well above what we thought it was going to be, because Toll Brothers is moving along quite well. Plus they've had a few other things. Joe thinks it'll be, Joe DeVito, the director of assessing, thinks it'll be certified somewhere between 1.475 and this 1.6.
New growth?
Yeah. So that, because of the timing of the year, that would get captured with Article 11 and put into stabilization.
Yeah, but that's not the The question is, how do we feel about taking money out of our savings account instead of out of our checking account?
And that's why we're having this discussion.
If we didn't want to take it out of here, do you have it in free cash?
Yep.
So Tony, you're suggesting that we take the 450 from hybrid kindergarten and put it back into stabilization?
I'm not suggesting it, I'm saying that's the one thing in my head that I'm thinking that I would think about.
Yeah.
But aren't you just making more of an administrative nightmare? I mean, it's already out, so we don't have to vote to take it out. I understand your point, that really coming from free cash really is coming from those unspent funds, right? That potentially could have come back from the schools as well. Probably not, but anyway, it could have been.
What's our benchmark for
Philosophically.
stabilization?
It's a discussion we haven't had yet as to where we want it to, what our cap is.
Is that financial policies?
It is, it's our reserve discussion.
No, but
because-
we've had some discussions over the years about it.
I mean,
It's higher though than we thought. I mean, we always like 3.5, I thought.
Yeah, the rule of thumb is somewhere between 3 to 5% of fund balance. I mean, or your general fund operating revenues. And we're just about there. It could go higher, but the question is, how much do you want stabilization? How much do you want capital stabilization? With stabilization, we, for the most part, we've used it for other things, but for the most part, it's there for emergency storm costs and disasters.
Which I worry about.
In the capital stabilization, we put stuff aside for big projects that we're planning for and then using it. So, I mean, we haven't had that discussion. I think 5.3 million is a healthy balance. I have been in towns where it's been higher. But, you know, and in the town where it was higher, when they used it, the credit rating agencies were all over us for doing it. We built it for a specific purpose. When we used it for the specific purpose, we were penalized for doing it.
It's the highest it's ever been right now.
And it's gonna get a little bit higher. That's why I felt comfortable at least proposing this to you, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, you can leave it where it is. It's not gonna close out. It stays there until town meeting takes action. And you don't have to decide tonight, but I am gonna need your guidance.
Right.
I'm fine with this.
I mean, I think you're splitting hairs, taking it from free cash and stabilization, and why make Nancy's life even more complicated, not worse, more complicated.
More complicated.
More complicated,
More
Nancy,
interesting.
I course corrected. More complicated than it already is. That's my 2 cents.
No, I agree with you.
If you're good with it, I'll leave that as the motion. That motion has been approved by town council.
Okay.
I'll just make the adjustment for the cut road fencing.
Thanks. One other thing, can you give us, I know in the past, we've asked for a breakdown of how free cash,
It's in your box.
oh, it is?
Mhm.
That was quick.
If you want anything else, I can't do it because my computer just lost battery. It's over.
We won't ask you any more
Telling us-
questions.
Went on too long.
It's telling us to stop. And when the machine runs out of tape, then we're really done, right, Seth? All right. All right, let's not
Give that to
belabor
my
this.
esteemed friend.
There you go. All right,
So we're all set then with our special town meeting?
yes. So now we can get on to discuss, vote, one-day liquor licenses, unless I've skipped ahead as I usually do.
No, that's right.
Let me find it, sorry.
Is this the Voyage one? Let's see.
Move to approve a one-day license, all alcoholic to the Voyage at 114 Marshfield Ave, Hummerock, on behalf of Scituate American Legion Post 144, a nonprofit, for a private event at the Scituate Senior Center on November 11th, 2021, from 10:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m.
Second.
Second by Ms. Canfield, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries.
That's an interesting motion.
Move to approve a
Yeah.
one-day wine and malt beverage license to a Fork in the Road at 6 Union Street, Pembroke, Mass., for a private event at the Scituate Maritime Center at 119 Edward Foster Road on October 22nd, 2021, from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m.
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries. Vote, discuss board and committee appointments and renewals. We have a sheet.
It's printed, I printed it out.
Yeah.
We can talk about a couple things. Would you like motions?
Lorraine, is there anything we need to know about any of these? It looks.
I was just recommending, some of these people interviewed previously that weren't here this evening, specifically Richard Beekman, Charlene Richard, and Matthew McKinley. Two of them were interested in several committees, so I tried to slot everybody onto committees based on their interest. And I wanted to run it by you. For example, Mr. Beekman was interested in Sister City Island Coastal Advisory and Beach Commission. So I'm suggesting that you possibly appoint Mr. Beekman to the Beach Commission. Matthew Ficken McKinley, again, was interested in DEI, which was already filled, Coastal Advisory, and Sister City Island.
Didn't we get a nice email from him, though, about
did.
coastal, advisory?
About Coastal Advisory. So my recommendation was to appoint him as a resident inland on Coastal Advisory and Charlene Richard as a resident coastal on Coastal Advisory. And then you would have the three openings for Sister City Island, for Mr. Canada, Mr. Quilly, and Mr. Volker. So all of the people will have a spot.
I think that's great.
That's wonderful.
But, I don't know if you have something else in mind. And then we have renewals.
We had such great candidates tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, all season.
We had great candidates all season.
Yeah.
Really great.
I like Elena season.
All right, so I'll move to
Voting this, we're finished with board and committee appointments.
Madam Chair, would you like a motion?
I would. I'd love one.
Move to appoint Mark Devereaux and Christopher Lassard to the Veteran Services Advisory Council for a term of 3 years or until a successor is named and completion of the Conflict of Interest Law online training program is completed within 30 days.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vignani. All in favor?
Was it
Aye.
Mr. Goodrich? I think it was Mr. Goodrich the second.
Doesn't matter. No, I'll give it to Mr. Vignani.
Maybe I'm not hearing out of one ear. Maybe
No,
that's my problem.
We both at
all
the same
night.
time.
Okay.
Jinx.
Sorry.
Well,
Jinx.
whoever's closest to me gets it.
All right, that's fine. Sorry.
It's all right. So we got that?
Did we do all in favor?
I think we got interrupted, right?
You got the eye, yeah?
Aye. Okay. Move to appoint Deirdre Dwyer to the Council on Aging for a term of 3 years or until a successor is named and completion of the Conflict of Interest Law online training program is completed within 30 days.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I liked her. She was nice.
5-0, motion carries.
All right, move to appoint James Canavan, Vincent Quealy Jr., and Raymond Volker to the Sister City Ireland committees for a term, for a term of 2 years or until a successor is named and completion of the Conflict of Interest Law online training program is completed within 30 days.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodrich. To my left, they're behaving. To my right, they're talking.
Stay after.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries.
Move to reappoint Siobhan Hunter, John Sullivan, Brenda O'Connor, Maureen Dinsmore, and Carol Sullivan Healy to the Sister City Ireland Committee for a term of 2 more years or until a successor is named and completion of the Conflict of Interest online training program is completed within 30 days.
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Do the rest if you
5-0,
want.
motion carries.
Move to appoint Richard Beekman to the Scituate Beach Commission for a term of 3 years or until a successor is named and completion of the Conflict of Interest Law online training program is completed within 30 days.
Second? Second by Ms. Curran.
Are we?
What?
Second.
I didn't say a word. Sorry, we're getting all punchy.
A little. All right, second by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, motion carries.
Move-
Only 2 more to go.
Move to appoint Charlene Richard and Matthew Fiken, I think, Fiken McKinley to the Coastal Advisory Commission for a term of 1 year until a successor is named and completion of the Conflict of Interest Law online training program, is completed within 30 days.
Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Move to reappoint Jonathan Grant to the Coastal Advisory Commission for a term of 1 year or until a successor is named and completion of the Conflict of Interest Law online training program is completed in 30 days.
Second?
Second, I'm really happy Jonathan is
Ms.
going to continue.
Curran.
He's excellent, so thank you for continuing.
All right.
Aye.
Didn't we already vote?
No. Aye.
Okay. Aye, 5-0. All right. Liaison,
Can I just ask a point of order here?
yes,
Did we vote on petition, the citizens petition?
we did not.
Did I vote on that the last meeting? I have to check.
Oh,
we did.
wait a minute.
we
Yeah, we
did.
did.
We
I'm
did.
pretty sure you did.
Because I voted
It was 3-2.
in favor of it
Yeah.
There's
with
3-2.
Andrew. The
Yes.
other three voted no,
I'm pretty
And we
sure
only
you
voted on
at the
one.
Last meeting on one of the articles.
because he's
Right.
withdrawing the other.
Postpone
That's
the
right,
article.
we did do
Yeah.
that when he came in.
Okay.
You were right.
All right. Liaison reports. Anyone want to chime in? It's the word for the night. Chime in.
CPC has done all the stuff we've been talking about, so that's about it.
Capital planning you were at.
We were doing all of that. There was, no, for liaison, that's it.
Karen?
I just wanted to note that the Council on Aging, or at the new senior center, there was a donor recognition event on Friday that was packed. We tested out the parking in there, and it was wonderful, and all the donors were there, and the Friends of Scituate, or Build a Campus folks gave a big shout out to Ms. Curran and to Mr. Bernini for their leadership on trying to get that done. And me too, that I was there, so I have to say that.
That was very nice of them.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know that it was a nice event.
And I'm sorry I could not attend, so I got the invitation and the timing when I was on vacation, so
Yes.
I
did
was
like
not able
that.
to RSVP, so I
But the whole
apologize.
board would have liked it. And I think that's it.
Actually, there's a new liaison report to do. The Scituate Harbor Advisory.
that's right.
Recommended committee,
That is
whatever
right.
that means.
There's not much
The
to-
shark.
right.
But
Are you a
we got the
shark or a
meeting-
spark?
We got the first meeting, and the second meeting is already in 2 days.
Yes. And
On
the chair
Thursday
is
Paul.
on it.
Yeah, he's on, we're
He's on it, so that's great.
rocking and rolling.
Yeah,
Can you put me on the email list? Like, does he send out agendas?
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Look at John.
Get me on that.
he's Mr. Organization.
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah.
90 days, we're gonna get it. We're going for it.
Yeah.
I have nothing to update. We have waterways tomorrow night, so none of my meetings have met since our last.
Right. Same here. So I think correspondence, we have some.
I will be brief.
Okay.
There's some CARES Act disbursement money that Nancy provided, which is wonderful. There's 3 different correspondence from Cedar Point. I think one of the most interesting, just again, thanking Congressman Lynch for coming out, also to the Army Corps of Engineers for the work that they've been doing. There's also, though, what I think is kind of new information, different topic, the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail. All starting in May. Next year, there's going to be a big ribbon cutting, website launch. They are getting ready to rock and roll and get going for next year. So get ready. A lot of great things planned. So that's really good. And then what else do we have? Press release on, excuse me, I'm going to skip to the baseball field. Again, just the rec recommending for us to take action on the Old Gates Field. I think that's it.
And then the grant report card, did you have that?
Oh, that was, I used to get confused between that and the Plymouth County CARES, Plymouth County stuff. That's a different
Yes.
spreadsheet that shows all the different grant amounts that we've
Yes.
received.
Page 107 in our backup, yes, it's all of the,
People used to ask all the time, why don't you
Yeah.
apply for grants? So
this, yeah, it's a,
it's a report that suggests that we do a lot.
that we do.
Is this year to date, Nancy, 2.4 million?
And it runs January to December,
Okay.
but the CARES Act is a good portion of that.
Oh, that's
Oh,
that. So
right.
$3.8 million since January 1st, 2021. Thank you. And to all the staff that take the time to write and submit applications for that money. It's a lot of work.
Wonderful grant writers.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, so thank you.
Anything else the board needs to say before we approve meeting minutes?
I just want to thank our board members for representing us so well in the cornhole tournament.
I was the cheerleader.
I saw you in the picture.
You're their alternate.
Good job, guys.
They did an excellent job. I was
Raised a lot of
I was
money,
happy to
as a
cheer
matter of fact.
them on.
That's good.
Could
Okay.
meeting.
Would you like a motion to move the meeting minutes? Move to accept the meeting minutes for the Select Board meeting held on September 21st, 2021, and the retreat meeting held on September 25th, 2021.
Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Canfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion adjourned and signed documents.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran.
Aye.
All in favor, aye.